En ek hoop ons kry regte antwoorde vandag. So, maar baie welkom julle hoor. Hier is my dogter, sy wil ook 'n paar gespeelde woorde sê. Baie.
Hallo julle, ek wil net 'n paar dingetjies sê. Die badkamer is daar agter in die hoek. Daai baksteen daar buite in die rooi dak is nog badkamers. As daar vrae gevra word en nie gehoor, steek net julle hand op. Ons sal mense hê wat vir julle 'n mic bring. Moet asseblief nie praat sonder 'n mic nie. Laat ons almal julle vrae kan hoor en dit goed kan beantwoord word. En dan gaan ek net oorgee aan oom.
Goeiemôre julle. Bly julle is hier. Nou, kyk en jammer dat Bek-en-Klou nou sulke wonderlike gevolg het. Dis dit nie so dat die manne dan weer 'n bietjie saamkyk versag. Nou ek wil ter verduideliking van 'n teksversie, Karel het gevra, Karel het my net gevra of ek iets sal ook om skriflees en gebed, maar ek wil net gou 'n storieetjie vertel. Hulle vertel van, jammer vir die wat dit nou al gehoor het, maar hulle vertel van die bokser wat vir 'n titel moet gaan boks iewers oor see. En lang voor die tyd moes hy nou al oor see gaan om aan te pas met die klimaat en aan te pas met die kultuur daar en sommer net homself gemaklik maak met die situasie. En wat toe gebeur is dat hy oefen baie hard en dit gaan maar swaar en hy is weg van die huis af en al die dinge. En dan op 'n dag gebeur dit dat die klok lui en die fluitjie blaas eers en die klok lui en daar begin hulle te boks. Man, en hy boks, en hy boks, en hy kry 'n paar hout in die kop en dit gaan maar swaar daar in die kry. En so op 'n stadium in die 10de ronde, toe kry hy nou, soos die boere nou sal sê, 'n lakshot. En hy plan die hou en hy slap hom teen die kakebeen en daar lees hy op die bed. Man, en almal juig en is bly. Hy kry sy 'n checkie van $1 miljoen, wat hy nie in sy sitbank gaan bære het op baie stadium. Maar in elk geval, hy kry toe nou sy $1 miljoen checkie. En hy so self ook so baie bly. Wanneer hy terugkom, moet sy vrou by die lughawe gaan haal. En toe sy nou daar so by die lughawe kry, groet sy hom baie vriendelik, sy is baie gaaf met die man. En al wat sy doen is, sy steek haar hand so uit, bedoelend dat sy nou die ou checkie gaan ontvang. En die hele storie gaan eintlik maar daaroor, by die teksvers wat ek vanmôre wil gebruik. Die verskil tussen 'n oorwinnaar en iemand wat meer is as 'n oorwinnaar. En dan is 'n teksvers wat daaroor praat nou. Die oorwinnaar, hy was daar, hy het al die houe gevat, hy het al die seer gekry, hy het al die pyn gekry, hy het al die ongerief gehad om van die huis af weg te doen, hy het al die aanpassing gehad wat hy moes doen, en hy moes geveg het. En toe hy daar die lakshot kry, toe maak dit van hom die oorwinnaar. Nou wie was nou weer die een wat meer as die oorwinnaar is? Daai dame wat daar by die lughawe so gestaan het. Sy het behalwe 'n checkie. Sy het niks gedoen daarvoor, maar tog kry sy die prysgeld op die einde van die dag. Nou, daar's 'n teksverf wat baie kosbaar is wat dit aanbetref. En ek wil ons boere vandag in hierdie land van ons, wat so 'n wonderlike land is, ek moet hierdie gedagte laat, om te sê, dit wat in Romeine 8 vers 37 staan, maar in al hierdie dinge is ons meer as oorwinnaars deur hom wat ons lief gehad het. Interessante ding, hy sê nie oor hom wat ons lief het, hy sê hy wat ons lief gehad het. Met ander woorde, dit is nie iets wat hy vanmôre besluit het, nou van ek lief is vir hulle, hy het hulle klaar lief gehad, soos dit vir ons. En ek wil vandag sê, dit Afrikaanse boere, of jy dit nou glo of nie, God hou van ons. God is lief vir ons. As ons gaan kyk hierdie geskiedenis, die pad wat met ons geloop het tot hier vandag, dan wil ek vir julle sê, God is in ons kant. En presies, dit wil ek meer afsluit. Dit wil in Psalm 18 vers 30 staan. En luister mooi wat hy hier sê. Hy sê, met u loop ek 'n bende storm. Met u spring ek oor 'n muur. En dis die gedagte wat ek vandag vir julle wil laat. Om vir julle te sê, Suid-Afrikaanse boere, hierdie omgewingse boere, God is in ons kant. En dis presies wat die vers 31 sê, en sê, as God vir ons is, wie kan teen ons wees? Nou ek weet, ons sit met 'n gedigte vyand op die stadium, ons noem dit Bek-en-Klou Opvolg. En ek hoop, ek vertrou vandag gaan ons bietjie meer duidelikheid ook daaroor kry, en so baie dankie vir ons kundiges op hierdie gebied. Wat my gebed is vir ons boere, om te besef, mense, ons het 'n ware God. En ons het 'n ware God, wat ons belang op die hart dra. En omdat hy ons belang op die hart dra, is ons in dieselfde span as hy. En omdat ons in dieselfde span is, kan ons sê, dit wat die psalmdigter sê, met my God loop ek 'n bende storm. U bende wat u moet stormloop, lyk dalk iets anders, of kan nog iets anders wees, anders as Bek-en-Klou sê, en ek wil vir u sê, dit slegs dit ook. God is vir ons. Kom ons bid saam. Hemelse Vader, baie dankie vir weer 'n geleentheid wat ons het om duidelikheid te kry oor hierdie gedigte vyand waarmee ons in hierdie land sit. Baie dankie Here dat ons weet dat u nie buite beheer is. En dat Bek-en-Klou sê, nie die bewys is dat u buite beheer is. Inteendeel Here, dit is juist die bewys dat u ons mense wil help en vir ons wil voorsien. Seën hierdie byeenkoms vandag, ons vra dit in Jesus naam. Amen.
Dankie Dominee Niemann. Daarin, gaan jy vir ons bietjie en die mense welkom hier. Jou plek hier, jy moet hulle laat welkom voel.
Hy wil ek wat bietjie die oor te promote ook. So, ons het chalets hierso. 20 van hulle, ons het lekker kampstandplekke. Ons is reeds vol vir Desember tot en met die 6de Januarie. Ons hou ook funksies hierso, so julle is welkom. En die is gratis kos na die tyd vir die wat wil hê. Die water, as julle gemis het, is ook daar by die begin. Die kontantkroeg gaan toe wees tydens die vergadering. Maar wel ook na die tyd, vir die wat ietsie saam met ons wil geniet. En dan weer eens baie welkom vir julle, oom Jan, nou is ek oom se beurt.
Baie dankie. Vriende, ja, hier het lyk of die min mense is, maar die ander ouens het my gebel en gesê, hulle gaan nie wees nie, hulle plan. Maar julle weet, dis nat en dan kom maar net so 'n paar dae wat die ouens kan plan. Maar ons sê vir julle wat hier is, baie dankie en ek hoop julle, ons kry 'n oplossing. Want ek en Karel het die ding begin. En ek het vir hom gesê, as ons nie ons uitvoerstatus terugkry, dan gaan ons baie miljoene rande verloor. Dit geld vir die wol en al daai diere, stoetdiere wat ons uitvoer, al daai goed. So ons moet vandag 'n besluit, laas het ons 'n lekker vergadering gehou, ons het niks bereik. En ons het besluit, ons gaan aanhou tot ons die ding reg kry. En daarom sê ek vir die paneel wat vandag hier is, baie welkom, Dr. Mazili, welcome you too. Most of the people speak Afrikaans here, but we'll allow you to speak British. But actually, in this province, the main language is Tswana. So maybe we are wrong. But how we will compensate this whole thing? You'll speak in English, they'll ask questions in Afrikaans. So it's a 50-50 win position. This is not in Parliament, please. Doc Morris, you're welcome, Marzaan, Doc, en daar aan die ander kant sit my vriend Gerrit Skutte. Jy weet, ek het vandag sy hand weer een keer in my lewe geskit, na 30 jaar. Dit is baie jare terug. En ek is in Amerika, in Miami, en ek lees so teen 'n robotpaal, en ek kyk na die mense, al die girls. En ek sien daar kom 2 ouens aangestap, maar ek ken hulle, maar hy ken my nie. En ek groet hom en ek trap hom uit dat hulle nie werk nie. Maar toe sê hy vir my, hulle is op werk daar, hulle verkoop ons vleis in Amerika. En van daar af, ek weet tot daar Gerrit se vakansiehuis is. So, Gerrit, asseblief, wat ons saamwerk, jy van die boere se statutêre heffing, wat jy daarmee maak, gaan ons jou nie vra vandag nie. Maar ons wil graag ons uitvoerstatus terugkry, en ons wil die Bek-en-Klou ander kan die rooi lyn hou. Baie dankie. Doc Morris, can we start with you? Thank you.
Ek weet dan almal, let's speak in British. Morning everybody, môre almal. I think there was some progress made following our last meeting. There were some guys a little warm under the collar, warm on die krag. And let's say that there's positive news in the fact that we haven't had a reported case from any of the 9 provinces since the end of October 2022. Okay, so we're fast approaching 6 weeks of no reported cases, and every single feedlot that was under quarantine is now slaughtering to the maximum capacity of the abattoir where they are slaughtering is allowed. As we're moving the process along, we think that there'll be major reductions in numbers in the feedlot as we go through the Christmas period. But I also think one of the things, and this young doctor sitting to my left here, is actually a stalwart in your province. Okay, he's not your enemy. He's someone that you can rely on. At the morning at 6:30, you can call him. For the rest of the day, unfortunately, he's tied up in a few meetings. But for those people that were fighting the vaccination program, I understand that there are people that have now agreed, and with Dr. Langer's assistance and help, the cattle were not branded but tagged. So I think even though they might seem like small steps, I think they're actually massive steps in getting cooperation between state and farmers. Unfortunately, he is just also a pawn in the game. Every decision he has to make, every decision that he does or does not make, has to go through the national office, which is seriously understaffed. And I can't tell you why, but there's lots of gaps where we're here, there, and everywhere, not in the office signing our documents. But I think at the end of the day, from a disastrous start on the 18th of March 2023, we've made incredible strides. Unfortunately, there have been massive economic losses, but at the end of the day, I think we have made massive strides. And as I said to the guys here at the meeting last time, I will undertake to engage with government, and I think that you get far more done with a teaspoon of honey than a bag full of lemons. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to quickly just do a very thank you to Dr. Majidi. Buta and Yanni is here, Vanda is not here today, but Dr. Majidi and his team has got a brilliant relationship with you guys. So Buta and Yanni is the coordinators for the Northwest Animal Health Forum. So we are very grateful for that. So the National Animal Health Forum is also today here. Is het raar? Van ons kant af is dit rarig net om dankie te sê vir julle, dankie meneer die voorsitter vir die geleentheid vir ons om hier te wees. En om te sê, ek sluit nou aan by Dr. Sean in terme van hoe ons die staat se hande gaan sterker maak. Hierdie is 'n staatsbeheerde siekte. Bek-en-Klou is nie 'n maklike een nie, ons het nie 'n maklike jaar gehad nie, maar die enigste manier hoe ons dit gaan doen in die pad vorentoe is om die staat se hande sterker te maak. Ek het vinnig gister 'n gesprek met Dr. Rimpo Maja gehad, sy is die nasionale direkteur vir diere gesondheid, en haar net in kennis gestel van vandag en die plan wat ons het om weer die boodskap uit te dra aan julle. Ek weet julle het ver gereis en dit is eintlik, julle wil eintlik by julle besigheid wees en daarom baie dankie vir julle tyd hier vandag. Dr. Marsha het sy werk saam met ons by die Nasionale Dieregesondheid op 'n daaglikse basis om enige dieregesondheidsaspekte tussen die industrie en die staat uit te sort. Maar spesifiek het sy aangewys dat daar 'n behoefte is vir 'n tegniese taakspan vir Bek-en-Klou. En die Nasionale Dieregesondheidsforum het toe ingespring en 11 kenners bymekaar geroep. Dr. Maris is ons voorsitter vir daardie taakspan. Die vorige vergadering wat ons gehad het was nou op die 23ste November en uit hierdie vergadering het ons aangedui dat daar is 'n struktuur waarvolgens ons graag wil werk vir die pad vorentoe. So die eerste stap in hierdie struktuur is basies 'n resolusie van die huidige uitbreke en uitbreekareas. So die provinsies gaan moet saam staan om die huidige uitbreke onder beheer te bring. Sodra dit gebeur het en met die uitbreke onder beheer bring, bedoel ek soos die depopulasie van die plase, die slagting van die diere en dan nou ook die resolusie van opsies vir persele wat nie gaan slag nie. Die proses gaan dan nou voort om in stap 2 die volhoubare Bek-en-Klou beheerstrategie bymekaar te stel. Nou ek het vroeër, ek dink 2 weke terug het ek met Boeta gedeel die vorige WPN, so dit is die Veterinary Procedural Notice vir Bek-en-Klou. Omdat ons nou huidiglik heeltemal 'n ander situasie het in terme van die uitbreke tans vir Bek-en-Klou, is die WPN wat ons oorspronklik bymekaar gestel het in 2014 nie outdated nie, maar ons gaan hom moet aanpas vir die huidige situasie. So dit is nou waar die volhoubare Bek-en-Klou beheerstrategie dan nou bymekaar gaan kom. So daar gaan tussen die provinsies en die nasionaal en dan in industrie gaan daar hard gewerk word om daai beheerstrategie bymekaar te stel. Van daar af gaan dit nou natuurlik die implementeringsfase wees. Al die dinge wat ons op die papier sit gaan dan natuurlik moet gebeur. So van daar af is dit dan toetsing om vryheid van siekte te bewys, as ons dan al die prosesse in plek het. En dan uiteindelik gaan ons begin met die aansoek by die Wêreldorganisasie vir Dieregesondheid vir amptelike vryheid. So dit kan slegs gebeur as ons al die uitbreke uitgesorteer het. So ja, net van ons kant af, ons is so dankbaar. Ons het regtig in elke provinsie het ons 'n dieregesondheidsforum. Ek weet van julle ouens val in die Vrystaat gedeelte, daar is 'n uitstekende dieregesondheidsforum aan daai kant ook. Ek kan julle in kontak met hulle sit, dis Niels de Villiers hulle, en dan ook Dr. Mojapelo en sy span werk ook baie hard saam met hulle. So ja, dis van ons kant af. Thanks dokter.
Dankie. Goeiemôre dames en heren. Mijn naam is Langa Majibi, die directeur van 4 veterinary services in de Noordwest. En ik ben met zeer dankbaar mee in die vergadering geïnviteerd. En er is al, ik ken van Afrikaans en ik zal oorzaak en de Engels ook. Thank you very much. In starting, I would love to report on a little bit of history that we've gone through with regards to foot and mouth, specifically in the Northwest. It was a new disease for all of us, and right at the beginning in March, we had hoped that it is a one incident and we'll go through it in a very short space of time and we'll get the Northwest free in no time. And for that reason, for the farms that were affected, we wanted to stamp out. There was a position right back then that they will rope in the National Treasury and they will buy off the animals and back to the benefit of the farmer and slaughter them outside the province. unfortunately, we were not on the same page with the money didn't come, and we had held meetings with the affected farmers, and in those meetings we took decisions that are now coming home to bite us. We suspended or we gave in on some of the fundamental measures to control foot and mouth, which was branding. We took time to be on the same page with regards to vaccination, and ultimately we all agreed it's going to benefit all of us, so we went ahead and vaccinated. But alongside with vaccination comes also branding. By law, branding vaccinated animals are supposed to be identified throughout the country permanently by physical hot iron branding. And that component of it, we came to an agreement that it would be suspended, but alongside with it, there was a protocol that was supposed to oversee the disposal of these animals, and there were time frames that were given right up until 6 months, starting from immediately within 2 weeks and 3 months, right up until 6 months. Right now, we're well over the period of 6 months, and the restrictions that were put on farmers have gradually been lifted, and farmers can slaughter in non-designated abattoirs everywhere. Now, recently, because this whole situation of not vaccinating and not branding and vaccinating was kind of a carpet pulled underneath our feet, we were sitting now with a problem that we have vaccinated animals that are not identified permanently. So we made a proposal, because there's also alongside introduction of LEADS. LEADS is Livestock Identification and Traceability Systems. We propose use of that software, that program, to identify these animals, still wanting to achieve the objective of permanently identifying these animals as a method of risk control and risk mitigation. And this program is promising to be useful, but none of it is going to be fruitful if we're not all going to be on the same page, because LEADS needs all of us to be participating in it. It's a program that we all know it's a software program, but without the cooperation of the people who are affected, and without the cooperation of the auctioneers and feedlot people and everybody who's a stakeholder, we're not going to achieve the same objective. At the end of the day, we are very happy that all of us are agreeing that vaccination at least happens that much. Technically, it reduces the viral load. So at least we do not have a virus propagating underneath our noses whilst we're watching. Now, the important thing is we must just come to an agreement on how to control and manage the risk that I'll use the word, we kind of drove ourselves into a corner with. Maybe it's going to be qualified in due course as we go. Now, the risk of taking this decision is actually reverberated throughout the whole province, throughout the whole country. Other provinces, this whole situation of suspending branding and using RFID tags for identification, as news have actually reached other provinces throughout the country. And farmers who were in the virus is still actively doing their rounds are now using Northwest as a reference point and refusing to take identification elsewhere as well. So that's a risk that is upon us now. The situation that we're in currently is that we have agreed we're going to go the LEADS route, but the complication that is going to bring when other provinces' farmers are using us as a reference and thwarting efforts to control the disease in our province, I think that's a risk that needs to be managed as well. in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, opinions that are going to be expressed in meetings of this nature are also opinions that are going to prevail in government meetings whenever we meet. We meet regarding this disease every week, and we express opinions, and that are both technical, but opinions that emanate from the people that are affected as well. So I'm glad that we're here. We can express opinions, agree and disagree, but ultimately we are going to come up with a solution that's going to be workable for our province. Thank you very much.
Goeiemôre. Lekker om hier te wees. Karel, baie dankie wat jy in die bedryf belê. Dankie vir dae soos vandag wat jy gereël het. Jan het vir my gesê ons moet asseblief vandag by 'n paar oplossings uitkom. Want ek hoor so baie hulle sê ons dans in die raadsaal, maar op grondvlak gebeur daar eintlik nie veel nie. En dan hoor ek baie keer hulle sê, nou wat het julle nou weer daar in Pretoria besluit? Maar aan die einde van die dag gaan ek tog vir julle probeer verduidelik dat wat daar besluit word ook nogal redelik belangrik is. Ek wil net my belange verklaar. Ek is 'n opkomende beesboer. Ek was self in die DMA vir 'n baie lang ruk in die Vrystaat. But I think at the end of the day, we must realize that foot and mouth is a controlled disease. It's controlled by government, and actually government has all the say in terms of where are we going. And it's also a fact that agriculture is a provincial affair. And I can tell you, we have to do with all 9 provinces. And this man sitting next to me, you must thank him. He takes a lot of decisions, he takes a lot of flack. But at the end of the day, the director in the province is a go-to guy when it comes to decisions. And we must help him to take these decisions. If we look at where we are now in Northwest, 16 outbreaks, that's still a long way to go. We are not going to get all the solutions today. We must finalize a process whereby we can get to the decisions in order to get there. I always say, I'm also involved in the National Animal Health Forum with a budget of 600,000 a year, and I'm also involved in the RPO with a budget of a few million a year. If you look at the budget of the national and provincial departments of animal health, it's 1.5 billion. So that is where the capacity lies in order to get to certain solutions. And I, from my side, would also like to thank the Northwest RPO for running a very, very effective provincial animal health forum. That is where I think the solutions lie in terms of the way forward. And as Dr. Majidi said just now, I think you can be an example for a lot of other provinces in South Africa. We are on a learning curve when it comes to foot and mouth. On the from the National Animal Health Forum, as you already heard, Dr. Sean Morris is the chairperson of the technical committee. The technical committee will have to advise us where are we going with our status on a national level. And I think we will have to move to something where we do more vaccinations in future, but where we still can export. Now there's a lot of questions about why do we want to go through all this trouble. We only export 4% of local beef production and 1% of local sheep meat production. Well, the short answer is when we had the outbreak 3-4 years ago in Limpopo, we lost all our exports. At that stage, it was around about 3%. And the cost to us as producers was exactly more or less 1,800 Rand per head in terms of winter calves. That's what we lost overnight. So even if we lose 4% exports, it has a devastating effect on our producer prices currently, and that is another aspect where the National Animal Health Forum works very hard. We are back in 26 countries exporting, but now it's bilateral agreements. We don't have a foot and mouth disease-free status. We must go there very shortly. So if you ask me, I think the one thing, Jan, that we must agree today is very regular meetings on provincial level in liaison with the national department in order to take decisions. It's very frustrating at this stage. In Northwest there's 16 outbreaks, but they stay on 16, and that's good news. But the other thing that we really want to do is close some of them, and that is very important. I would like to conclude. You know, we all some days think it's doom and gloom. I just made the calculation just now. Year on year, the producer price of beef is now exactly 14% up, and sheep meat 9% up. There are not a lot of industries out there where that is the case. In South Africa, up to now, we had about 500,000 vaccinations. You can go and calculate that in terms of money. Government has put a lot of money into this, but the future lies where we as industry take hands with government and we sit in the province on a regular basis with Dr. Majibi and ask. And that is, Jan, perhaps what we can do today. Get a list of all the issues that we want decisions on. And then from there, we give it to Dr. Majibi, asking for decisions in that regard, and that will, over time, be the way to go in order to solve the problem in Northwest. But we must also take into account that other provinces aren't on the same page, and we will have to take them with, because at the end of the day, if we want to get a status back, we will have to do it as a whole country. Thank you very much.
Hey, dankie julle. Dok, hoe sal ek vir jou sê? Ek wil eintlik met my raad praat. Sy praat van 'n komitee wat hulle het wat sit. Nou, Marzaan, laat ek jou so antwoord. In my lewe het ek baie goed al beleef, maar my groot probleem is, deesdae se mense vat 'n jaar om 'n besluit te neem. Ek vat hom nou. En die besluite wat julle wil neem, al van maart maand af het julle dit gebeur. Maar daar was al 'n uitslag gewees. En Gerrit, wat jy sê is waar, maar dis nog nie oplossing wat jy gebring het nie. Nou wil ek met ons staatsveearts praat. Doc, I'll speak English to you. You know me. I think if we must sit down, we must have farmers with logic on that committee. Because either we will have to make ZA numbers, like in the chicken business. But I've got a few problems. Why did we deviate? There's the act. Why did you deviate from the act that's there? And now you're in trouble. Because we won't, as long as we have vaccinated animals in the Northwest Free State, Gauteng, we will never get your free status or to export back. I know they're talking of 20% and 2030, that's a lot of money. But somewhere we must be willing to take a decision now. And it's not happening. It's Christmas, everybody goes on holiday, then some guys forget about this and they say, this is part of Africa. This is not part of Africa, like Potchefstroom. I want to take back the town, because the way they administrated this town is nonsense, because it's dirty, there's potholes, all those things. But let's leave that for another day. But what we want is to say, what is the plan? Like on page 60 there, it's saying, if you are my neighbor and your next door neighbor, and my cattle has been vaccinated and yours not, I must protect your cattle by putting up a fence 5 to 20 meters away from my cattle. It's not happening. So government is not telling the farmers what is the consequences, because if I give you foot and mouth, you can sue me, because it's in the act that I must protect the cattle that's clean, and it's not happening. And like Doc Morris agreed with me, all the cattle that's vaccinated in the feedlots, that include bull calves, heifer calves, everything, must be slaughtered. But now, outside on the farms, there is cattle and heifers and cows that are vaccinated, but they keep on farming with it. It's a very big problem, because why have you got one rule for feedlots and another rule for farmers? And that is what makes the people unhappy. They want a law or an act that we must consequently look to and agree on it. Otherwise, we must sit down around the table and decide that we will vaccinate the whole country, but then we can never apply for export. We can export to Asia, because Brazil is exporting there and is vaccinated. But our prices can't compete with Brazil, because they sell feed, cattle from grass, not from feedlots. So they must cheaper. So we are in a catch-22. And as I say, Doc, I followed what you did in Potch from the beginning. My advice was to Dr. Now, slaughter all the animals that's positive as quickly as you can. And then we can vaccinate the neighboring farmers, and you stop there. But the problem is, a farmer is a very clever person. And that's where it happened. One farmer went and he sold cattle at Bek-en-Klou, and it went all over these places. So somewhere we must take strict decisions, but fair decisions. And that is what we actually want from the guys in charge. As you said, he's our connection with the head woman there, that state bed woman. She's very clever, very helpful. If you come with a logic plan, she will agree. Thank you. So if you have any comments on what I've said, please take me on.
Okay, so let's be realistic about goals to achieve in the very short term, goals to achieve in the medium term, and goals to achieve in the long term. You're not going to eat this elephant completely in one shot. And I hear what Umyan's saying, and I think there are just a few things that we need to clarify. It is very easy, and there are approvals have been granted. I understand that it's a slow process. It's called a Section 20 application. A Section 20 application is an application to government to do research on the validation of a test. There are tests overseas that can distinguish between vaccinated and non-vaccinated cattle. The test is actually called a prior check test. You can Google it, it comes out of Korea, South Korea, not North Korea. Anything that comes out of there is missiles. But the test is available, and we have now been given permission to validate the test. Something that we've never had approval for before. When it comes to exports, I think we've got to look at the picture as with being open-minded. Our biggest trading partners at the moment are the Middle Eastern countries. I can tell you, because I'm signing off on documents, the Qatar World Cup led to big opportunities for South African beef to go not only to Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, Egypt, and we are talking to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia was in fact here last week. And we're looking to take the low-hanging fruit first. Being on the technical committee, we're still bumping heads about vaccination. I think I mentioned last time we've got a world authority that was the head of the OIE, Dr. Gideon Bruckner. I heard this morning from Mazan that he's now going to take up a director position at the National Animal Health Forum. And you can't really try and argue with Dr. Gideon. He's seen this movie multiple times and is regarded in the world as a world authority. Regarding vaccination, we are seriously bumping heads about vaccination. But bearing in mind, resources are limited. Vaccine availability in South Africa, we have just completed the process of making 80,000 doses. May we never need them. But coming back to the vaccination of cattle, be it in a feedlot, be it in a commercial setting, or be it in a stud, I think the situation with regards to stud farmers is the genetic retention. And it's not an option that's not available to those farmers. If you go to the OIE manual, WOHA as it's called now, Chapter 8, and you've got nothing to do during this Christmas period because the shallows are all rented out and you're forced to stay at home, read through that chapter in the manual. It makes very, very clear provision for what you can and what you can't do. Bearing that in mind, the South African situation is different. When you talk about the rules and regulations that were drafted by the OIE, they don't have the SAC strains in Europe that we have. They have strains that are fatal. A and O, Asia 1, and in fact, I don't know if I mentioned last time, the world used to have 7 strains when I was a student. Now the world has 6 strains of Pickenmouth. Type C has been eradicated, just like rinderpest. And I don't think that being bullish, and I'm talking from my own experience, don't be bullish at national. Come with concrete, validated, scientific proposals, and they won't be thrown off the table. I think we've also got to understand the political component of this disease. You know, we've got elections coming up for the ANC this month. Okay, we've got it. People are scared to move. You know, just now you make the wrong move and you're visiting one of these shallows after January the 6th. You know, that you've got something to do. But let me say to you that I am more positive. And I understand everyone wants a quick fix. But the fact that the farmers in this province that were so averse to vaccination have actually agreed to vaccination. I think if you listen to what Dr. Langer said, and it's a fact, it's clinically and scientifically proven that vaccination stops the shedding of viruses. Are there carrier animals? Yes, a very, very small fraction of animals may become carriers. Are you going to see any symptoms? No, you're not going to see any symptoms. But believe me when I tell you, on this technical team, we couldn't have better people. People that have worked with this disease for 20 years. We've unfortunately lost some people along the way, you know, due to illness and so forth. But the people that we've still got working in South Africa have got more than enough knowledge to work with government, to guide government. And yes, we are going to bump heads. You know, at the end of the day, we've got to understand it's still a government-controlled disease. And I'm going to say to you, as the disease progressed through the various feedlots, unfortunately, so we got better and better and better. We didn't have to wait 6 to 8 or 10 weeks for documents to come out of National. I think they've got an understanding of the financial impact that we had. And let's leave the financial impact aside. What about our food security? That is unbelievably important. We need to feed a nation. And I think Dr. Langa is also going to have his views on this, on the matter. I think when the original outbreak occurred in Potchefstroom, nobody, and I don't think there's anybody here that they'll say they knew that the disease had broken out and that cattle movement should have been stopped. I would say to you unequivocally that if we had the diagnosis maybe on the 16th or the 17th, we wouldn't have the situation that we had today, because there wouldn't have been an auction at BKB in Potchefstroom. Bearing in mind what I told you about the laboratory, and Dr. Langa can verify it. If we need samples tested, we make a telephone call. Unfortunately, sometimes we jump the queue. But the lab has got limited capacity, limited funding, limited people, and at the end of the day, their turnaround time, we would like it to be in an hour. And there are tests being developed, ladies and gentlemen, that will be at the farm, that within 1 hour you will know jy het groot kak of jy het nie kak nie. En as jy groot kak het, dan word jy sommer hier toegemaak. But the turnaround time at the lab now, and I think I said this in the previous meeting in July, they tested 13,000 samples. Now, the samples can be submitted tomorrow morning, you'll have your results the same day. There's only so much capacity that we have in South Africa, and we are looking to establish additional laboratory services that may we never need. Thank you.
Dankie Dr. Maris. Ek het net vergeet met my opening om dankie te sê vir julle vir die dag hier by julle oor. Dit is pragtig. Ek is baie spyt ek nie my korsie saamgebring nie. Ek dink Dr. Maris het nou meeste gesê wat ek van die Nasionale Forum se kant af kon bydra. Maar meneer die voorsitter, ek hoor daai frustrasie. Ek het dit al ook die laaste paar maande baie gehoor dat ons het al hierdie komitees en al hierdie fancy meetings, maar niks gebeur nie. En ek kan vir u nou sê, deur die Nasionale Forum werk ons regtig hard daaraan om eerder aksies uit hierdie vergaderings deur te bring, so vinnig as wat ons kan. En ek dink die laaste paar maande het ons redelik baie gedoen gekry. Dr. Maris was nou baie, hy het nie gesê hoe hard het hulle gewerk van die FND tegniese taakspan om hierdie enstof wat nou geregistreer is by die LNR onderste poort aan die gang te kry. Daar is baie harde werk wat in die agtergrond gedoen is en baie fasilitering tussen die industrie en die staat wat ons nie eers almal van weet nie. So ja, van my kant af kan ek net so sê.
Baie dankie oom Jan. This situation we didn't wake up in this situation. We walked up to where we are. It has developed. It hasn't been an easy path for all of us. First and foremost, the outbreak in the Northwest categorically was in the commercial sector with well-ringed, well-fenced farms. And for that reason, we, right at the beginning, when we should have declared a disease management area, we couldn't. The law and the strategy says that can only be declared where movement control cannot be achieved. It was a blessing and a curse at the same time, because the fact that any of the farms that were affected could be confined was a blessing on its own. But the fact that we couldn't declare a disease management area, which is declared by the minister, wasn't doing us any good. For that reason, one of the biggest strategies which could have prevented further spread was ring vaccination. As soon as we know there's an affected farm, one of the biggest strategies is to vaccinate all farms around that area within a radius of 10 kilometers. That couldn't be done without testing first to see if those farms are affected. In a situation of a disease management area, that is mandatory, not without it. And so that was the first predicament we were in. The initial intention was to clear all these animals, and that was the discussion when we first started to remove all affected animals from the Northwest and have the Northwest free, notwithstanding what's happening in the neighboring provinces. Now, I think the biggest discussion that we need to engage in is where to from here, because we are here now. We've taken this one decision after another, whether it was giving in, bending the law a little bit here, or doing things not the way they're supposed to be done. Every decision that was taken with due consideration of what was on the ground. There was no deliberate intention to profound or transgress the laws that govern disease control. But every decision, one has had to be pushed to a point of taking it. I think that the biggest discussion that we can do ourselves by undertaking is, how do we progress from here? We have driven ourselves into a corner. I keep coming back to use of that word, that we didn't do it. Can we bury our face and go back and redo it? Can we manage the situation from here going forward and see how far it takes it? This point that Dr. Morris is coming up with of the research and Section 20 that has been granted, it's a very important development. If you can have a test that can distinguish between natural infection and or vaccinated infection, I think it would make a sea of a difference. But right now, we are right at the beginning, at the bottom of the steps. We still have a long way as far as that research is concerned. So we have to take decision as of now. Now, Umyan, I think the big question is with regards to sticking to this process that we have proposed as a modification of what the law requires, or simply biting the bullet and doing things strictly according to the law. And I don't want to go further on the consequences. Now, whatever discussion, and I believe this forum is well representative enough to take that decision. And if whatever opinion, overarching opinion comes out of this, is what is going to be put on the table for government to start discussing. And at the moment, government has come to this far and has got documented evidence why it came up to this far. So it sticks by its guns. It's doing things that way. However, the doors are not closed. Any discussion can still be open for any opinion can still be open for discussion all over again. In a nutshell, I'm going to leave it there, perhaps just to stimulate further thoughts and opinions to come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's very clear now that there are certain national issues and certain provincial issues. I think we must trust national, that they will deal with the policy issues, with where we're going with vaccination, the whole lab issue. And that is for the technical task team to liaise with the national department. And I can tell you we already had 2 meetings. Sean is the chairperson there, and Mazan said that there are 9 vets from industry side. And I can tell you those vets are all from industry. They understand the value chains, they understand every implication of decisions that must be taken. So let's leave that to national in terms of policy. Where should we focus? I think we should focus in the province. We should focus firstly keeping it only to 16. We don't want another one. That's the first one. And then the second one is dealing with the 16 that we have. Now, Jan, if I may, I've tried to say it earlier, that the only way we're going to eat this elephant is by putting the issues on the table, getting decisions, and those decisions sometimes will have to be liaised back to national in terms of policy. I still think, Jan, if possible, every 2 months we must have a meeting of the Provincial Animal Health Forum, and this friend will be the kingpin there. He must make the calls, but we as industry must support him. And that is the other issue that I've heard just now, Jan, is perhaps from this grouping, get 3 farmers that can represent the farmers in that meeting, because that will be crucial meetings. Let's have them every 2 months, and if we later see we can go a bit longer between. But that's not to say that we only have every 2 months a meeting and nothing happens in between. My gesture will be, we all know Boeta very well, that Boeta will be the liaison person between meetings of where we're going. So I think it's very important that we have one person like Boeta that will, between meetings, liaise. And then perhaps one can today put the issues on the table, Jan. We can perhaps circulate something that the farmers can just put their issues on paper, and that will be the basis for the agenda of the first meeting. Yeah, and then I just want to say that, please, at the end of the day, we mustn't only rely on government to do this for us. Self-regulation is now very clear. If we don't self-regulate, we will not stop this disease. Thank you.
Kan ek net vir almal vra, can I just ask everybody, what have each of you individually done to secure your farming operation? If you could maybe just give us some feedback on that. Has anybody taken any steps to be a little, I know the one guy, hy was nie nou gelukkig met ons laas keer nie, en hy het lots to say. But has anybody taken any steps?
Ja, hoor jy so, nee, van ons kant af, wat ek doen, ek het 'n voerkraal. So wat ek nou doen is, ek vat kalvers, dan vat ek dit na my botsplaas toe en ek los hulle daar. En ek los hulle vir, dan wil sê 14, 15 dae in kwarantyne. Ek los hulle sommer vir 'n maand, maand en 'n half daar. So dit is die stappe wat ons moet volg. Maar dis nie so maklik as mens met aantelbeeste sit nie, wat ek ook het. Jy weet, so ou moet van tyd tot tyd 'n nuwe bulk koop. Jy moet goeders insit, jy moet jou kudde verbreek. So dit is nie so maklik om grond te kry oral vir die goed. Ek was gelukkig want ek het grond op ander plekke. Maar as ander ouens op voerkrale wat nie plekke het wat so Sparta en daai tipe ouens wat daai hulle kan nie daai hoeveelhede van hulle voer in die veld nie. Ek het 'n klomp gevat en ek het op die veld gevoer. En ek sê jou daaglikse toename is next to nothing. Want hulle loop dit uit, hulle moet in die voerkraal gaan, hulle moet in die feedlot wees. Nou gebruik hy daai energie wat hy deur sy kos gebruik, loop hy nou uit. So, dit is, so ek sit dit op kwarantyne, maar dit net baie rond met jou omsette.
Well, I've got 5 farms and you won't enter any one of them without showering, leaving your vehicle outside. But that's a problem. Most of the farmers just don't care. They think it won't happen to them. Maar ek wil net 'n vraag vir Gerrit. Gerrit, vra jou 'n snaakse vraag. Ek hoor die storie loop rond. Jy weet in die ou dae was daar baie die milieraad en al daai goed het geld gehad. Maar somewhere is daar 'n trust met 90 miljoen in en julle is agter daai geld aan. Is dit so? Is daar waarheid in die stories of nie? Want as julle daai geld kry, kan julle die boere uitbetaal. En dan wil ons nog hê, julle moet nog 'n bietjie uitbrei aan planne, dan gaan ek vir Boeta vra dat hy wil ook iets sê. Baie dankie.
Dankie Jan. Daar's 2 trusts en ek ken dalk nou nie die syfers presies reg nie. Wat van die ou vleisraadfondse gestig is. Die een is die RMRD-T. Dis 'n Red Meat Research and Development. In die trustakte sê hy baie duidelik, jy kan dit net vir navorsing aanwend. En dit word gedoen. Die ander trust is 'n MI Meat Industry Trust. En op hierdie stadium is hy geoormerk vir die ontwikkelende sektor. So dit gaan nie onmoontlik wees nie, as daar spesifieke projekte binne die MIT kom in die ontwikkelende sektor, wat Bek-en-Klou verwant is, sal dit moontlik wees. Maar daar is ongelukkig tegniese probleme met trustees wat oorlede is en dat die trust so 'n bietjie in limbo is. Maar wat ek wel kan noem is, op die 7de November van hierdie jaar, there's been a new statutory levy in place. Now, I've already alluded to the fact that 1.5 billion rand is available for animal health. To give you an idea, from this statutory levy, there will be generated more or less 50 million rand per annum. And there are 4 focus areas, of which one is all about animal health. So there will be some capacity in terms of industry jacking up animal health. But the capacity is not enough, Jan, to buy vaccines and stuff like that. The capacity will be to jack up the provincial animal health forums, in terms of liaising with government. So there, all I'm trying to say, there will be a bit of capacity from industry side. We are very sincere when it comes to foot and mouth, but I think we must utilize that capacity in order to help manage the 1.5 billion. Thank you.
Baie dankie, voorsitter. Ek het nou geluister, maar ek dink boere wil ook weet, wat is die RPO as spreekbuis van rooivleisprodusente se plan om die rooivleisbedryf vorentoe te neem? Vir 'n boer gaan dit oor volhoubaarheid en winsgewendheid. En Gerard het verwys na uitvoere. Maar ek wil tog vra, Gerard, dat jy 'n bietjie verduideliking sal gee, hoe lyk die nuwe strukture van die RPO, wie daarbij betrokke is en hoe pas dieregesondheid daarbij in. Dr. Morris het nou gevra, wat doen boere? Natuurlik is die reëls van die Agricultural Produce Agency Council, dit wat jy sien by die veilingskrale, die vereistes wat gestel word aan boere, dink ek is hoofsaaklik die goed wat boere beweeg om biosekuriteitsmaatreëls toe te pas. Maar ek dink ons het geweldig baie goeie inligting en kapasiteit om vir boere te sê, hoe lyk biosekuriteit op 'n plaas, hoe lyk die dieregesondheidsplan, wat die RPO formuleer, dis alles goed wat boere kan toepas, wat vir hulle die pad gelyk kan maak. Voorsitter, ek wil net sê, ek dink nie 'n ou kan die bedryf vorentoe neem sonder 'n behoorlike strategie en 'n plan nie. En ek wil vir die versekering gee, daar's 'n baie goeie strategie. Baie goed nagevors, Gerard moet vir ons sê wat dit is, hoe lyk daai plan, en wat is die elemente daarvan? Biosekuriteit, dieregesondheid is maar net een daarvan, u weet dit self. Die bemarking van vleis is 'n ander aspek. Die veediefstal is 'n ander aspek. Al hierdie goed impakteer op die winsgewendheid en ons moet oplossings daarvoor kry. En dan, ek kom agter dat mense nog steeds nie weet wat die verskil is tussen 'n vrywillige heffing en 'n statutêre heffing nie. Baie boere dink hierdie geld beland in die hande van die RPO, die statutêre heffing. En Gerard, ek dink ons moet dit maar weer sê vandag. Die vrywillige heffing is die heffing wat u betaal by 'n veilingspunt om die RPO as die spreekbuis aan die gang te hou. In die provinsie ontvang ons dit, ons hou 'n kantoor aan die gang en ons betaal 'n gedeelte oor aan die nasionale kantoor. Ons strukture is dun op die grond. Ons sukkel om te doen wat ons graag wil doen. Ons sal graag 'n persoon wil stuur na elke veediefstal inligtingseentrum toe waar u by betrokke is. Ons kan dit nie doen nie, want ons het nie die geld daarvoor nie. En dis klein geld. Dis R1.50 op R1.000. Dis 4 Wilson toffies. Op 'n R10.000 transaksie is dit nie eens 'n brood nie. Dis mos nie geld nie. Dit lyk my ons is te goedkoop. Maar waar is die spreekbuis van die rooi vleisprodusent as ons nie bereid is om ook 'n struktuur te befonds nie? En ek wil vir u uitnooi. Moet asseblief ons kongresse bywoon. Moet asseblief ons inligtingsdae bywoon. Maak gebruik van die geleentheid. Ek dink is uitstekend dat ons ook vra uit hierdie groepering, hy kan ons 3 mense kry by die dieregesondheidsforum in Noordwes. En ek gaan vra dat Jannie, as die voorsitter dalk net 'n paar woorde na my sê daaroor. Ons sal dit verwelkom. Ons vergader gereeld, ons het 'n goeie span by mekaar, maar ons het almal se ondersteuning het ons nodig. Voorsitter, en ek dink Gerard in jou verduideliking sal jy sekerlik iets sê oor lits ook, oor waar dit inpas. Ek dink nie al ons mense weet daarvan nie. Ons sal die presensielys vat en sal vir u ook op 'n WhatsApp groepe sit met inligting. En as jy enige iets wil weet in verband met rooi vleis sake, dan moet jy asseblief vir ons vra. Wees maar versigtig vir die boodskappe wat rondvlieg en persepsies wat gevestig word daar buite wat nie altyd die waarheid is nie. Vra nou maar vir ons en as jy enige vrae het of as jy enige voorstelle het, dan is jy natuurlik baie welkom om dit te doen. Kom ons werk saam, ons vat mekaar se hande en ons maak die RPO baie sterker om namens ons rooi vleisprodusente te kan optree. Voorsitter, kan ek vra dat Jannie dan net miskien oor die dieregesondheidsforum iets wys sê. Baie dankie.
Dankie voorsitter. Ek gaan sommer hier voor staan. Ek is Jannie Raad en ek is die voorsitter van die dieregesondheidsforum in Noordwes. Ons is baie goed verteenwoordig uit al die strukture uit en as daar iemand behoefte, ek is baie bly, daar's 'n voorstel oor nog mense wat dalk uit hierdie vergadering ons forum kan bywoon en ons is baie goed verteenwoordig uit al die strukture uit, so as jy voel jy het behoefte om inspraak te hê in die forum, dan nader jy deur jou strukture ons en julle is baie meer as welkom. Ons telefoonlyne is ook altyd oop en as daar 'n verdagte insident is, kontak ons onmiddellik, ons is nog altyd bereid om te help. Ons doen navraag by Dr. Majibi hulle en hulle volg dit op vir ons. So nee, baie dankie voorsitter. Ons hou 4 vergaderings in 'n jaar gemiddeld. En as daar behoefte aan meer is, dan hou ons gewoonlik meer soos in die laaste ruk. En nee, baie dankie voorsitter, dis al van my kant wat ek wil sê. As daar vrae is, dan sal ek dit ook beantwoord.
Jannie, baie dankie. Boeta, baie dankie. Maar Jannie, as ek so sê, ken jy my? Jy sê, so julle het 'n forum, maar jy ken nie as die boere in die omgewing. Nee, maar dan gaan jy moeilikheid hê. Hy weet wat wil ek hê. Ek wil die voorsitter wees van elke ding en ek wil die dinge hê dat hy môre met die job klaar is. Dis 'n ingewikkelde storie. Maar kom ek wil weer vir Gerard vra. Gerard, ons het nou geluister wat julle sê met julle komitee is en al die goede. En die geld is ook daar wat ek van gepraat het. Daar is sulke geld. Ek wonder waar is nog geld, dat ek ook bietjie gaan, jy weet, daar inbring. Maar ek wil graag by jou weet, hoe lank moet al hierdie praatjies wat ons hier gehad het, hoe lank gaan dit ons vat om ons status terug te kry? En wat presies moet ons doen om die status terug te kry? Ek hoor wat Dr. Moller sê, ek hoor wat Marzaan sê. My dokter wil ek nie by insleep nie, want hy het 'n baie verantwoordelike saak. Maar ek wil jou weet, want jy is van die rooi vleisprodusente. Hier is rooi vleisboere. Jy is eintlik hulle baas, want jy is die voorsitter. Hoe lank gaan dit hulle vat? En wat gaan ons doen? Wil ons hom terug hê, of wil ons na Dr. Morris se idee toe gaan en eind al die beeste? Want dit was 'n groot probleem gewees, dat jy 'n beest toets, as hy geënt is, sê hy vir jou hy die siekte, maar nou kan ons identifiseer, is die entstof of die siekte. So daar goed nou verander, maar gaan ons diere daai aanvaar of nie. Ons moet na al daai goed kyk. Hy het gesê ons het baie, maar dis daai markte daar in die ooste en dis waar Brazil ook verkoop en hy is baie goedkoper as ons. So Gerard, asseblief help ons bietjie.
Dankie Jan, ek dink jy moet eintlik vir Sean daai vraag vra, maar my vinnige antwoord sal wees ongelukkig tussen 5 en 10 jaar. Ons moet onthou, ons het 500.000 diere geënt. En as ons dieselfde status wil behou, dan moet die laaste van uitgeslag word. So, dis waar die tegniese komitee inkom. Die tegniese komitee sal vir ons moet sê, wil ons 'n status by die internasionale dieregesondheidsorganisasie van sonder enting? As ons sonder enting gaan, tussen 5 en 10 jaar. As ons met enting gaan, waarskynlik iets anders. Maar ek dink daar's 'n paar opsies op die tafel. Ons het nog nie Bek-en-Klou in die Kaap provinsies gekry nie. So dis heeltemal moontlik om te sê ons soek 'n Bek-en-Klou vrye sone status en dit sluit die Kaap provinsie in. En ek dink dit sal die begin wees vir ons om dan te gebruik om ons genetiese materiaal en al daai goeders uit te kry. Maar as ons gesê het 5 tot 10 jaar, dan moet ons nie totaal moedeloos raak nie. Ek het net nou vir julle gesê ons is reeds terug in 26 lande op bilaterale handelsooreenkomste. Elke dingetjie wat ons doen, gaan die bilaterale vennoot na ons kyk en sê ek hou daarvan, so ek gaan ja sê vir invoere op 'n sekere protokol. So ons moet regtig nie moedeloos raak nie. Ons moet hierdie olifant opeet en hoe vinniger ons hom opeet, hoe meer bilaterals gaan ons kry en hoe meer dollar, pond en yen markte gaan ons betree. Ja, so ek dink dis die antwoord. Ek weet nie of Sean my saamstem nie.
Okay, so one can apply for zonal status at the OIE. Coming back to young Carl, in the early in the New York, coming to visit him, I'll make his cattle grow even though they're walking. But the one thing we've got to remember is that to get our free status back, we have to do ongoing surveillance. And I'm not being critical here. We've had 3 scares in the Eastern Cape. Every time I come and sit up here, I'll make an offer again. Julle boere nie. Ek sal julle lees en kom gee hoe werk die siekte. I really and truly believe you need to understand the disease, because that's going to help you understand what you need to do, vaccine in or vaccine out, to protect yourself. Jan said, many farmers say this disease doesn't affect them. Wie van julle ent teen knopvel siekte? Lumpy skin disease. Is there anybody here that doesn't vaccinate against lumpy skin disease? So those that don't vaccinate lumpy skin disease, do you think the virus thinks, oh, moenie worry, daai plaas nou nie mooi nie, kom ons los die beeste? There are so many tools available to us, vaccines included, that could make a massive difference in the financial outcome or failure of your farming operation. I believe, anybody here not vaccinated against milk sickte, anthrax? Everybody vaccinates against anthrax. So you want to get our status back. Let me give you a great example. Let's take foot and mouth off the table. If you want to see the retina of a Chinaman, tell him you've got lumpy skin disease. Do you know that if you're a facility that, we will get our status back to China, I have no doubt about that. You're banned for a year from exporting any meat to China if you have 1 clinical case on your feedlot. Just 1. And those that don't vaccinate against a disease that is easily preventable may need to just go and revisit what they believe are the strategic components to successful farming operations. All these diagnostic tests, guys, that's going to tell us at the abattoir. The cow side test is going to tell you, like I said, you had groot kak, boerse kak, whatever kak you want. But that's not going to stop the problem. We need a mindset change. This can affect anyone. Any farming operation that has gesplete hoewe, like that, you're done. Do you know that even camels can get foot and mouth disease? Camels. And you look in the Middle East, Foot and mouth is rife in the Middle East. Trade continues. And I think at the end of the day, we've all got to take the responsibility for our own farming operation. Who of you don't make use of a veterinarian? Julle kan maar eerlik wees. Hier's ouens wat rondhardloop, wat bulle tap en dragtighede doen en hulle is masjiene. You need to have a relationship with your veterinarian. In the Eastern Cape, within 6 hours, we had samples heading to Joburg. In 6 hours. If you don't have a relationship with your veterinarian, daai mannetjie wat die bulle toets en hy doen nie dragtighede en hy kan enige operasie doen, hy kan jy nie help nie. Trust me. As much as you believe that that's a cost saving, it's not. And I'm promoting the veterinary profession. You won't believe how many lectures have been given to the vets that would be an asset to your farming operation, not a threat to your farming operation. So the guy that's not trained as a veterinarian can charge you 500 Rand an hour, and the vet that's now been paying back his loan, he's 1,000 Rand an hour. Ek weet wat kos die beeste. Jy weet die voerkrale koop hulle nou. And coming back to the last statement about the 500,000 cattle that were vaccinated, bear in mind that the majority of the cattle that were vaccinated were in feedlots. Sparta alleen 120,000 beeste. Dis 'n kwart van die beeste wat geënt is. Beefcore, Morgan, Harry Smith. So we'll be able to reduce that number dramatically. Close those things. That's what the OIE wants to see. Closing down of active problems through whatever means you use. But at the end of the day, it's all our problem. It's not my problem, it's not your problem, it's our problem. And coming back, to what Mazan said about our technical committee, we are engaging with government. We can't be prescriptive. We don't sign the documents. But we can give them the best possible information that's available to us. Jan said he read my talk. I even offered to give him the most latest, up-to-date information. One of the things that it hasn't even been discussed in an open forum, we're looking to have an FND seminar with international experts. There are people overseas that are prepared to come here at no cost, that will do their own payments, to come and engage with us, engage with government, because research needs to be ongoing. This is not a disease that arrived in 2019 or 2022 in Potchefstroom. The only time that this disease dissipated off this continent was when we had rinderpest. There were no cattle to get sick, it was all just. But at the end of the day, I plead with you, I ask you to go back today if you're not being proactive about protecting your asset. And all of the big feedlots now, glo my, those cattle that you buy, whether they came from an auction with all the rules, regulations, pictures, balloons, whatever you want to call it, go onto a separate facility. When it comes to breeding cattle, like Carl mentioned, try and buy them from people that are actually practicing biosecurity protocols. You might have to buy, keep 2 or 3 or 4 bulls away for a while, but trust me, I was on a farm this week, I'm not here to promote the breed. If the farmer's got all his biosecurity protocols in place, and he's being proactive about protecting his herd, the chances of you pick up an infection from that type of farming operation is not null. I can't guarantee you null, but it's very, very small. So know whom you're buying from, understand what you're buying. I mean, it's not for me and Langa to fight with each other in a public forum, but I think there have also been mistakes made. I'm sure he will admit that himself. From those mistakes, we have made improvements. And a good example is if there's a suspect animal at an auction, that auction is shut. Okay? Jy kan maar skree, jy kan maar vloek, jy kan maar doen wat jy wil. That auction is shut until we have confirmation you're in the game or you're out the game. We learned that the hard way this year. So every mistake we made is ultimately remedied and rectified. The auctioneers, this young man here is with me, they have a role to play. But if you have a suspect animal, do not just ignore it. Call the vet, call the state vet, take all the samples that need to be done, okay? And there's even products on the market nowadays that you don't even need the fancy transport mediums. Okay, it's called DNA, RNA Protect. You put the sample in there, it can stand at room temperature for the rest of its life. But we need cooperation. And if there's a problem on your farm, don't wait until the shit hits the fan. The fan's not working, we're at stage 6. But you're still going to have a problem. And it's cooperation, samewerking, samewerking, samewerking. Die vir julle wat nie ent en die knopvel siekte, kom sien my. If you want to sell ostrich hearts, gaan koop vir jou volstruise.
Doc, thank you very much. I'm going to let Gerard now talk a bit, and then there will be questions from the farmers. But Doc, I want you to agree with me. You said if you have biosecurity, then it's very small chance you'll get the disease. But that's one of my biggest problems. There's the fence. That side you have biosecurity, you have overalls, you have food dips and everything. But this guy's cattle is vaccinated. Now come winter in Potchefstroom, you can come and check our record. It's up to -60 against the weather. But year round you will also get 12 minus degrees. The cattle are thin because there's veld fires and all that. And I tell you, if there's 100 vaccinated cows next to me, then I might pick it up from 4 stress at cattle in that bunch of cattle. And nobody can deny it. And nobody can say it's 100% sure if you're vaccinated that my cattle is protected. Sorry, I've checked. You know why I'm a genius? Because I'm dumb. But I know clever people like you, and I use you guys. Yeah.
But if I can just make one comment to Barry. Okay. When you vaccinate your cattle, and we can share the articles and the research with you, okay? We're looking to use the vaccine at this point in time with government consent and permission to reduce viral shedding. That is the predominant reason for vaccination being allowed currently. And let me say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that is a massive step forward. When the disease hit the feedlots in the tail, despite repeated requests to vaccinate, they were all turned down. So just the fact that we've got the government to consent to where we are, and I hear what I'm saying, the cattle next door to me are vaccinated. Those cattle actually pose a minimal risk and are actually more advantageous to having cattle that are just running around that are not vaccinated. What we do need to do is to make use of vaccines that confer longer immunity. What we're currently using, as I said the last time, we have a 3-month immunity. Okay, that's not long enough. But Onderstepoort now has the ability to produce vaccine that has a year's immunity. And when it comes to carrier status and persistently infected animals, they are in the absolute minority. But remember, there is minimal, not nothing, minimal viral shedding. And that is the function of that vaccine. I mean, I asked the other day in this meeting, who's not vaccinated with COVID? There were people that put their hands up. Those people that are vaccinated against COVID show minimal clinical symptoms. You're over the disease in a short space of time. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to undertake to put an article together with the clever guys on this committee. I'm certainly not clever. Let's give you more information on what vaccines do and don't do, that you understand the principle of vaccination against foot and mouth.
But Doc, I understand what you say, but you haven't answered my question. Am I safe with all my biosecurity, but I have a communal fence with a guy whose cattle, why did they vaccinate the cattle in our area? Because they test positive for foot and mouth. That's why they vaccinated them.
Yeah, we vaccinate, not we. Okay, the government consented to vaccination to lower the the viral shedding.
Yeah.
Okay. In lowering the viral shedding, you are lowering the risk of transmission. I mean, if
I
there's...
agree.
Yeah.
I agree, but
Yeah.
still there is a chance. And according to the Act, if this guy next to me tests positive, he must have a barrier between my fence, where my cattle graze, and his fence. And these things are not being done.
Okay. So maybe let's look at the laboratory side of this thing. When you say test positive, does that mean you've had the clinical disease or you've been vaccinated? Because there are specific tests that are available that show you have viral circulation or you don't. Okay, and I think that's one thing that needs to be understood. We can determine in a feedlot, in a commercial setting, if we have active viral circulation. Okay, if you've tested positive, like in Jan's scenario, maybe the farmer tests positive next door. Okay, we've got to distinguish between active and vaccinated. The vaccinated cattle are going to test positive, but the government's got records of that facility, and I can't guarantee you or anybody else from Jan that it's not going to happen to you. Because this disease knows no boundaries. This disease cannot read or write. But if we've got, and I understand this 10 or 15 or 20 meters, okay, in our experience, that is not enough space between cattle groups to prevent the disease from spreading from one group to another. In our experience now, fences seem to be relevant. We thought that, I mentioned the last time that the wild pigs were an issue, the vlakvarken, okay, besides me almost getting shot, okay, they had no viral infection, none whatsoever. We have to rule that out. The biggest cause of spread of this disease outbreak was mense. Mense en bakkies. Nie bakkies bote nie, bakkies.
Interlinks.
The Free State interlink, I told you that the last time. But trust me when I tell you that in the Free State, outside of this province, that was mense. Wat nie gaan van kan luister het. Excuse my French. People, we need to open our ears. If anybody remembers from the last time, if you're in contact with a foot and mouth animal, standing directly in front of it, how long must you stay home? 5 days. Daai boere in die Vrystaat, ou maat, hy klim in sy bakkie en hy gaan na sy volgende plaas toe, nadat hy op 'n besmette plaas was. How are we supposed to help you? How? En dis nie al honderde boere, dis enkele boere. Die verspreiding van een voelkraal, noem die naam na die volgende voelkraal toe. Okay? Die ou het besluit, die beeste groei nie goed genoeg in hierdie voelkraal, ek gaan hulle skuif na die volgende een toe. And the feedlot hadn't picked up the infection. Remember what I said, it's subclinical. You very often see nothing. Nou ewe skielik het jy die beeste geskuif van daai plek na daai plek en bingo, you've just won a prize. And the government has all the resources in this VPN 14, okay, to shut you down, take control of your business, and Lunga's a hell of a nice guy. You want to go for coffee with him, you don't want him to manage your business, trust me, okay, because that's when the fighting starts. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I can't give you 100% certainty to protect yourself. But there are measures that could mitigate risk. And if you're just buying cattle, and let's take there still continues to be cattle trade in the northern province. There still continues to be trade. If that's your approach to buying cattle, moenie verbaas wees as jy 'n pakslaag kry, en hoe eintlik 'n pakslaag.
Thanks, Doc. But actually you admit that it's not 100% correct. Thank you. Gerard, kom ek? Gerard, jy moet bietjie jou ding vir ons daar mooi verduidelik, maar jy moet Afrikaans praat, want baie van die boere verstaan nie Engels.
Ek sal graag Afrikaans wil praat, baie dankie voorsitter. En ek is bevrees ons begin nou weer dans in die raadsaal, so ek sal baie vinnig wees. In die rooivleisbedryf het ons die Bureau vir Landboubeleid gevra om vir ons 'n visie 2030 daar te stel. Waarheen is ons op pad? Want as ou nie weet waarheen op pad is nie, dan het jy geen rigting nie. En die visie 2030 het dan ook die nuwe statutêre heffing, wil ek amper sê, geïnvorm. En ek is nou ou meubels by die RPO en ek wil vir julle sê, ek gaan baie rustig aftree oor 'n paar jaar. Want vir die eerste keer vandat ek in hierdie bedryf werk, het die boere, die produsente kant van die waardeketting hierdie besigheid begin oorneem. En daar kan jy sien, ons het 'n primêre kluster gestig. Ek gaan sit, dit lyk my baie mense kan nie sien nie. En dit verteenwoordig die abattoirvereniging, die voerkraalvereniging, die RPO en RPO. En ek wil sommer vinnig vir julle sê, ja, dit is baie keer moeilik by die RPO, want dit voel vir ons baie keer, ons is tussen die staat en die boere, en dis reg so, en dis baie maklik om te kritiseer, en julle moet ons asseblief altyd kritiseer, maar doen dit binne die RPO. As julle nie hou van die voorsitter in die omgewing nie, skop hom uit, kry julle eie man daarin. Maar aan die einde van die dag het hierdie primêre kluster gaan vra vir 'n nuwe statutêre heffing. Hy is van die 6de November in plek. En die goeie nuus is, daar word nie meer aftrekking by die veiling gedoen nie. Die aftrekking word nou net eenmalig gedoen by die abattoir. En wat lekker is, vir die eerste keer in die geskiedenis, sover my kennis strek, het die boere weer die beursie in die gatsak. Met ander woorde, in die ou statutêre heffingbedeling was daar 13 rolspelers en dit het altyd vir ons gevoel of die sekondêre bedryf vir ons eintlik dikteer. Hierdie statutêre heffing genereer omtrent R50 miljoen en hy gaan 4 goed doen: kompeteerbaarheid, marktoegang, inklusiewe groei en dieregesondheid. En ons het vandag baie oor dieregesondheid gepraat. Wat inklusief kompeteerbaarheid aanbetref, ek het dit net nou gesê, ons is 30% onder die wêreldprys in terme van ons pryse, ons is uiters kompeterend, ons moet dit so hou. Marktoegang, ons moet die deure oopskop, ons het vir julle gesê, bilaterale ooreenkomste gaan maar nog 'n rukkie by ons wees voor ons status terugkry. Ons moet die ontwikkelende produsente saam met ons vat, en natuurlik dieregesondheid. Jy kan aangaan asseblief, Corrie. En dis nog meer die funksies, ek gaan nie in detail met hulle deurhardloop nie. Hierdie hele model is gebou op Meat and Livestock Australia. Met ander woorde, die Red Meat Industry Services is dienste wat vir die boer gelewer gaan word met 'n hoofuitvoerende beampte. En hier is die tipe dienste. Een wat ek vinnig na kan verwys is na speurbaarheid. Weereens, die staat gaan dit nie vir ons doen nie. Ons moet dit self doen. Dis baie soos dieregesondheid, van die goed moet ons self doen. Volgende een asseblief, Corrie. Jy kan omskiep, dankie. Ek sluit af. Ek wil vir julle sê, ons is baie opgewonde oor die toekoms. Ek het net vir julle gesê, met watter persentasie het ons produsenteprys hierdie jaar beweeg. Die rooivleisverbruiker in Suid-Afrika het die verbruiker het 'n baie sterk affiniteit vir rooivleis. Ons moet kennis neem dat die verbruiker wil weet hoe, waar en hoekom. Ons het definitief 'n geleentheid tot verhoogde produksie. Ons wil 280.000 steenkalvers in die mark kry in die toekoms. Ons wil uitvoere groei van 5% van produksie na 20% en ek kan vir julle seker, dit sal die prys ondersteun. Ons het wêreldklas genetika, dit weet ons almal. Ons is internasionaal kompeterend. Ons is absoluut optimisties oor die toekoms en ons het die aankoop van die regering. Ek wil vir julle sê, die rooivleisbedryf is so 'n bietjie in die down seats. Ons het sopas mos nou gelees van die nuwe meesterplan wat die minister geteken het. Dit wat die bedryf vir homself in die vooruitsig stel en wat die owerheid vir homself in die vooruitsig stel is presies dieselfde. Ons wil hierdie bedryf groei met 'n ekstra 12 biljoen rand per jaar en ek dink ons gaan dit regkry, maar ten einde daar te kom en ek dink ons het so ietsie vandag daarvan gesien. Ons sal maar self by die soutmyn moet sit, ons sal baie van die werk self moet doen, maar sonder die staat gaan ons nêrens kom nie. En dan wil ek amper sê vir u vra, wees maar so 'n bietjie geduldig wanneer dit lyk asof die RPO baie geduldig is met die owerheid van die dag. Daar's nie 'n ander manier nie. En ek dink op die lang termyn is dit die enigste manier om hande te vat en hierdie bedryf vorentoe te vat. Dankie Jan.
Baie dankie. Sit maar daai laaste punt op hier asseblief vir my. Ja. Ons op. Ons moet beheer neem aan ons eie toekoms. Ek dink dit is waaroor die vergadering eintlik gaan. Ons wil weet, hoe gaan ons vorentoe op 'n dag af? Want ons, wat gister gebeur het, kan ons niks aan doen nie. Ek gaan nou die boere vra, die wat wil vra, die wat sê jy? Vertel ons sommer waartoe laai julle, hoekom laai julle?
Môre Jan, môre aan almal die boere ook. Ek wil eers om Jan antwoord op sy vraag. Om Jan, die probleem waarmee ons vandag sit, is juis omdat die regering kort paie gevat het, en ek moet dadelik sê, ek het baie groot respek en ek is baie dankbaar vir Dr. Majibi, omdat hy die Noordwes gehanteer het soos ons hom gehanteer het. Want as ons die Noordwes gehanteer het soos die Vrystaat, wat om Jan se voorstel was, kyk wat gaan in die Vrystaat aan. Dis een groot gemors. Noordwes het net 16 uitbrake en die veiligste verspreiding was 'n ongelukkigheid wat die ouens nog nie geweet daar's Bek-en-Klou nie, daar was ook nie simptome nie. So was dit nie vir daai skywing nie, het die Noordwes hom laat doodloop. Die Vrystaat werk so. Jy eet en jy brand. As jy nie wil brand nie, stuur hulle die polisie. So die polisie was al die Vrystaat. Wie sit vandag met die meeste positiewe gevalle? Die Vrystaat. So as jy die boere wil kwaad maak, en hulle vir jou warmtrek toestuur of jy die staatsveearts of wie ook as hy sê vir hom, ek gaan jou beeste brand. So om Jan se ding om te sê, ek het vir die staatsveearts gesê, slag daai beeste. Dis waar die probleem lê, en Dr. Majibi knows, we had a lot of meetings, is taking responsibility. Vat verantwoordelikheid. So wie gaan die verantwoordelikheid vat? So voor om Jan of enige ou sê, hoor jy so, en die bees, slag hulle en vat hulle uit my gebied en ek wil nie siek word nie. Moet daar wragtig eers gecompenseer word. Ons kan nie sê, hoor jy so, die staat het daai siekte hier ingebring, ek wil hom uit hê, slag hom nie. As die staat verantwoordelikheid vat, of die bedryf verantwoordelikheid vat, en sê, luister, ons sal die manne markware vergoed, dan is dit reg, dan kan enigiemand sê, die wet sê, vat hom uit. Die wet op Jan sê, eet hom en brand hom F. Maar, wat die wet nie sê, of wat die boere nie verstaan nie, is daai bees F gebrand is, mag hy nie by 'n gewone slagpaal geslag word nie. So die moment as hy my bees brand, dan trek hy my bees onder wetgewing in, wat my bees onder my beheer uithaal. En dis hoekom ons beklei het, en Dr. Majibi knows that. We argued with them not to brand. We didn't have a problem with the vaccination. Vaccination works. But branding pulls that cattle into law and pulls it in the hand of the government, and that was our problem. So as op Jan wil hê, ons bees moet nie siek word nie, eintlik. As jy die buurman is, dan is jou kans bitter goed dat jy wel Bek-en-Klou het. So as hulle jou negatief toets op 30 monsters, dan beteken dit nie, jy is nie positief nie. So as jy al jou beeste toets, jy is nog steeds nie positief nie, dan ek nie raad nie. Maar al manier hoe jy gaan keer is om te sê, ek is dan nou positief en enkele, maar dan moet jy die pak vat wat met die huidige wetgewing vir jou sê. En dit is waar ons probleem lê. Daai wet wat om Jan van praat, hy is ons probleem. Want as daai wet sê, ons kan end, ons hoef nie te brand nie, ons kwarantyne daai geënte plase, en daai boere kry geleentheid om daai bees te slag, dat is het reg. Want dan hou een mark. Maar op hierdie stadium praat ons, en laat ek by die punt uitkom. Dr. Morris, we need a decision. Dr. Majidi, we need a decision. I told you in the last meeting. We don't know if you're going to with vaccination or we're going with free status. It's one of the two. In South Africa, it will be only one of the two. There's no in between. We are putting a lot of energy, like you see, into what? Which decision? We need a decision that says, listen, the government says we are going for free status. That's fine, 100%. They are government, they are making the law. But then they will have to take the responsibility if something goes wrong. At my farm, the government said something terribly had gone wrong. But they do not take responsibility for that. Taking responsibility is to say, listen, I will pay you market value for your cattle. Any farmer here, you cannot have a feedlot which cattle will be slaughtered. Their market is slaughter value. My stud cows market is not slaughter value. So if somebody wants me to slaughter my stud cattle, I will go bankrupt. It will not financially impact me. It will not cost me money. It will make me bankrupt. And that's the difference between me and the feedlot. Also in the meetings, I told Dr. Majidis, this solution must take all parties along. We cannot get a solution for small farmers, big farmers, feedlots. So if the risk is too high for the upcoming farmers that they will be infected again, we cannot say, listen, let's go with the free status because the feedlots want to export. Then the price is too high for the small upcoming farmers or the commercial farmers. So please take the decision. Vaccinate or open status. It's one of the two. And then if the government tells us, says, listen, we decided we're going for a free status again. Then we can have meetings again and say, now all our energy is going into free status. And then some things must change. The first thing is, why we say that we use the vaccination only to bring down the virus load. That is of no use, because how is foot and mouth spreading now? In a circle from where it started. So internationally they say you vaccinate a ring around. So the neighbors must also be vaccinated. So the law must be, but you cannot vaccinate a farmer that is not positive. Jy kan nie 'n boer en wat nie positief is nie. Want hy gaan vir jou sê, luister my vriend, nou wil jy 'n goed vra. Nou kan ek nie eens my slagpaal slag. Nou sit onder kwarantyne. So die probleem lê by die wet. Daai ding moet verander. So as ons 'n besluit kry en sê government is going to free status, the first thing that must be worked on is the law. That if an animal is vaccinated, keep him under quarantine, but don't F-brand him because then we pull him into law. So that things must change. And then it will be able to, if you have an outbreak in Paris, yeah, we can say, listen, the neighbors in a 10 or a 15 kilometer radius, vaccinate them all. Then Carl's cattle can be vaccinated. You have no risk of getting infected. But he's not under quarantine. You can feed him and you can slaughter them. But as the law stands now, if he vaccinates, he's under quarantine. And if he brands, you cannot slaughter him. There's no abattoir in South Africa that will slaughter this lot of cattle that is in these abattoirs. So we must make die changes. Op Jan, ons slag ons bees by Kots. Ons word nou toegelaat om te slag die eerste keer van Maart maand af. So hier's 'n paar boere, hulle sit die manne het dit amper nie gemaak nie, maar ons is daar deur. So my ding vandag is asseblief, laat ons praat van elke 2 maande vergadering nou, los dit. Neem die besluit. Kry die tegniese inligting en sê, gaan die vaccination werk? Nee, dan moet ons free status gaan. Maar ons wil free status gaan, maar ons wil nie die prys betaal. Dr. Sean Morris het nou gesê, toe die uitbraak by my was, moes die land toegewees het. Dis wat die wet sê. Hy selfe wet van hom, ja. Hy het gesê, maak toe. Die minister moet toemaak. Hoekom het ons nie toegemaak nie? Want die prys is te duur. As ons toemaak, dan verloor die land en die boere miljarde rande, die mense kan nie voortgaan nie. Want dan kan ons nie sê, gaan vir vrystatus, maar ons wil nie die prys betaal. So as ons nie wil toemaak nie, dan moet ons vrystatus los. En daai tegniese komitee moet dit opweeg. Hulle moet die risiko's opweeg. Dis nie net 'n tegniese veearts ding om te sê, dis immuniteit, dis uitslae, dis positief nie. Dis risiko's wat moet opgeweeg word. Want ons kan nie laat boer besluite geneem word, want die risiko's bly die boere sit. Dit kan nie so werk. So die ouens wat besluit, as hulle besluit vry status, dan gaan daai besluit met ons vat verantwoordelikheid vir die boere wat positief toets. Punt. Want ons jaag vry status. Hoe jy verstaan? So ons kan nie sê ons gaan nou vry status, maar ons los die manne wat siek word. So dit gaan nie so werk. En dan nog baie, dis my tweede punt voor ek afsluit is. Botswana. As ons gaan vir vry status, Botswana se kalvers, Dr. Majibi, Botswana calves comes in alive. Botswana 2 weeks ago placed a report that said their export to South Africa is open now, but to the European Union is closed because they're not ready yet. So what it means is that it is easier to import a live animal into South Africa than exporting a piece of rock to the European Union. Why? Why do we as farmers have to take that risk of an animal? I had an argument with one gentleman that told me that Botswana is a food and health-free country. It's not a food and health-free country. You remember the meeting we had about SAT1, SAT2 and SAT3. It was 5 or 6 days Botswana announced we have food and health. So Botswana is not food and health-free. So I as farmer, and I'm not looking for all the farmers, me as farmer, feel the risk is too high to import that animals untested. If they test it, that's how, if I want to export, I export a lot of cattle to Botswana. The list is this long. What they can import untested yet. And the Red Cross comes and says, yes, you must go straight to the feedlot because the feedlot will take the risk. You cannot spread out of the feedlot. What happened in Marquardt? What is happening around the feedlot in Marquardt? There's a lot of farmers. Where does that food and health come from? So, we want to know if they import cattle untested from Botswana, who will take the risk and the responsibility if something goes wrong? They can import it any day, tested, untested, but on that document must stand who will take the responsibility of if something goes wrong. If they're positive, animal comes in, and again happens what it just happened. Is it the feedlot or is it the government? And that is what I mean with taking responsibility. It's not we wanting to say you must not do, cannot do, must. It's about what you decide must become with responsibility. So if government tomorrow says open status, I'm 100% fully. I don't have a problem with that. But it must come with the responsibilities when something goes wrong. When someone comes in life, who's going to take responsibilities? And that is, because the farmers here sitting here, why do they think nothing will happen to them? Because there's no information in the first place, and in the second place is biosecurity. Ek wil die boere vandag sê, ek praat baie van biosekuriteit, wat doen die boere? Jy kan vir Bek-en-Klou niks doen nie, jy kan niks doen nie, hy kom deur die lyndraad. Ons moet 'n plan kry wat blywend gaan wees. Ons moet 'n plan kry dat die pes of uit die area uitkom, heeltemal uitbly, of ons alles beeste eet. So, om Jan kan, en om Jan is 'n hoenderboer, en hulle sê as jy wil biosekuriteit weer, gaan jy met die hoenderboere. Om Jan se biosekuriteit is op topvlak, want sy beeste gaan siek word, nie van die geënte beeste aan die kant nie. Moontlik gaan die ongeënte beeste aan daai kant. Want waar is die Bek-en-Klou? Tot waar het dit versprei? Ons het nou weer onlangs verspreiding gehad van ou plekke, wat dit door eenvoudig net verder gaan. So, en ek wil afsluit daarmee. We want a decision and responsibility taken with that decision. I told you on the last meeting, Dr. Maji, die boere, as jy 'n plan het, en hulle glo jou plan, dan gaan jy saam jou loop. As hulle nie jou plan glo nie, if they not believe in your plan, you will never get into work together with you. And that's what happened in the Free State. And the Free State will pay their price, and that is why Northwest is not so bad. Because the farmers bought into your plan of not burning and vaccinating. So, from now on, we need the plan going forward. And if the farmers believe in it, they will go with it. If they don't believe it, they will not go with it. So the guys going back to government and to the ministers must tell them, listen, if we go with free status, what is the plan? Will the fence be put up within 3 months in the race zone? Will there be an abattoir bigger built in the race zone? Will current beef build the feedlot in the race zone? Because why is the race zone coming here? Because they don't get prices for it there. So if we don't build a feedlot there, the cattle will come. So if they don't do that, the plan is not going to work. So that is the first steps. We need steps on paper. We need to see, we're going to do this work in the first year, we're going to do this work in the second year, and if it's not possible, please leave the free status. Let us vaccinate. Because the risk for the farmers is too high. Dr. Morrow said, please work together. If you see symptoms, immediately report it. Who on earth will take that risk of reporting food in mouth if you know what is happening? So it is within law to say report it. I am not saying to the farmers, do not report it. I just say, listen, for Dr. Sean Morris to ask farmers to report it, it's a bit far. Really, it's a bit far. Because if you report it in the Northwest, we are under your control. But in the Free State, we are under the control of the guy who sent the police to your farm. So, and that's the main reason why Free State is raised today. The farmers do not report the cases. So the food in mouth is spreading where you do not see it, you only see it when it ends up in a feedlot or in a dairy. So make the decisions. If it will work, we will go with you. If it don't work, the farmers won't go with you. Dank u wel.
Dankie, maar het gehoor, het gevra van die trust met die geld. Ek wou dit gehad het om jou te betaal vir jou soetkoeie. En
Ja, hulle het hier by so 350 miljoen dit hulle sê boys, as ek hier geld gekry. So daai wat kom het gaan om nou 'n bietjie moet soek. So, kom ek sê net vir die boere, daar was in die en dis hoekom dit my so vies maak hoekom die regering nie die plek toegemaak het nie. Ons was die uitbraak waar hy uitgebreek het. As hy nie versprei het nie, was daar 'n baie goeie kans, there was a good chance that we will be able to provide market value because there was a few farmers. It was in a closed area. But the moment it spread it, the money just expanded. So, to pay out, ja, daar in die Vrystaat, daar Markwart is boer om 8.000 koeie. En daai man is boos. En as jy hulle wil uitbetaal die R25.000, dan praat ons van miljarde, nie van miljoene nie. So, en dis hoekom ek sê, as ons gaan met algehele enting, dan beteken dit ek kan met my spoed aangaan en die Markwart boer kan met sy spoed aangaan, want al sy diere is geënt. En ons kan met daar ons ooreenkom en sê, luister kerels, kom ons kyk of ons julle oor 4 of 5 jaar julle kinders kan uitslag, dat ons by skoon kinders kan uitkom. Maar solank ons by die Vrystaaters gaan uitkom, en hulle gaan die boere nie betaal nie, dan ek ja beloof, hulle gaan hulle nie slaag nie. Hulle gaan nog nie, baie van ons gaan nog nie eentje, en dis dood nie nog om die wetgeving. So, nee, baie dankie man.
Dankie Victor. As ek so sê, wat Victor vir ons sê, wat Victor gesê het, ons moet 'n plan hê. Dis wat ons ook graag wil hê, maar die plan moet werkbaar wees. Ek weet party mense gaan ongelukkig wees oor die plan, maar ons moet 'n besluit neem vir die land. Nie vir elke boer 'n ander besluit, want hy het gesê, nee, jy gaan jou by beeste ent nie, jy kan hom 'n pinkaartjie insit. Dan kan jy hom op die komputer sit. Daar kan nie verskillende reëls vir elke plaas wees nie. Daar moet een reël wees vir almal. Dan gaan die ding werk. En daarom wil ons graag, dis wat ek en Karel agter sit, ons wil 'n plan hê, hoe gaan ons wil uitvoer, of sal uitvoere ons aanvaar, as ons geënt is of nie. Maar daarna moet die komitee van Marzaan nou gaan sit en kyk, en 'n besluit neem. Wat is die beste, eerste vir die land, en daar kan nie dubbelstandaarde wees vir verskillende provinsies en verskillende boere nie. Ek is jammer. Dis hoe dit moet werk. Is daar nog enige ander vraag? Ja, waar is daai man?
Dankie oom Jan. Ek wil net eers sê oom Jan, dis maklik om te sê, bring jou in op die plaas om te wees. Dus soos Victor ook gesê, dit kom deur die lijndrade. Ons is die laaste plaas gewees op die 8, uit die 8 plaas in die area wat Victor hulle aangesteek het. Die groot ding wat aangesteek het, koeroes, rooibokke, varke wat deur die grensrade gekom het. Die kry hulle nie gestop nie. Die nuutste studie wat ek gesien het, was kraaie gewees, hy vlieg ook, hy kom sy 40 kilo's weg van die plaas by jou waterprik en drink, gooi 'n stukkie vleis in die water, jy gaat hom optel vir op wees. Tweede punt vir my was, die siekheid uit Limpopo uitgekom na ons area. Daar was permitte geïssue, legal permitte, van daar af, uit die kant, die veeartse en toets hierso, het hulle enstof in die bloed opgetel. Daai beeste is deur die polisie gestop, met die trok, die tweede keer, die vragte wat ingebring, hy het nie eers brandmerke opgehad nie, nie eienaarsbrandmerke nie. Dit is waar die grootste probleem gekom het. Dit is van Limpopo af wat afgekom het na Noordwes en dit is so uitgesprei. Die probleem is in die rooi area of net buite die rooi area daarso. Daai ouens moet hulle vasvat wat daarso deur uitkom met beeste. Dit is die groot ding, die hele ding. En dan sal al ons probleme hier opgelos wees op die einde van die dag. Dis al, dankie man.
Baie dankie. Is daar nog iemand?
Yes, Jan. Ek wil persoon vra, kyk, ons ent al ons beeste, met alles wat ons kan vir die feedlot. Jy praat van inenting, wanneer kan ons verwag dat dit beskikbaar gaan wees? Wie moet dit beheer? Gaan die staat moet inspuit of kan ons self inspuit? Want as die staat inspuit, gaan dit lewenslang vat. Ons ken van beeste inenting, so ons kan 1000 op 'n dag spuit. So, wanneer gaan hy inenting beskikbaar wees?
What we have asked for, if we get permission to vaccinate, is that they accredit and approve private veterinarians. I don't think the government has got sufficient manpower to cover every base. There's no ways. We haven't quite got that far yet. There are still people in national that have their concerns, and whether they're valid or not is irrelevant. They're the people that can ultimately approve or not approve you. But we won't give up the fight on vaccination. Sometimes we're a bit demoralized because we know that that's going to take us forward very, very quickly. But it's a question of putting the right information on the table, which we're busy with now. Our next meeting's on the 18th of January. And I think with the co-opting of Dr. Bruckner, you know, that's not a cat with a thin tail. That's a tail attached to the cat. And he knows. So Sean might be relevant in the game, but I don't think you'd be doing very well if you ignored the advice and recommendations of Dr. Gideon Bruckner. And we hopefully will have his assistance. And once again, if you people want us to organize a more formal information day, to give you as much information as we have, you tell us where, we'll make sure we're there.
Baie dankie. Baie dankie, dames en heren. I got the gist of what was being commented on. I'm gonna try to address as much as I can. The issue is to give a plan. The big plan is to be free of foot and mouth, to be able to do trade freely. Now, the decisions that we've taken up to this far are all directed towards freeing us of the status of foot and mouth, whether it be taking vaccination on a farm basis or quarantining farms. All of those are intended to limit the spread of the disease so that we're able to take trade decisions much more easier. Now, the decision to a free status with vaccination is a very, very big disease. As Dr. Morris is saying, those wheels move slowly. Those will probably be more desirable because they bring us closer to a freer economic status much quicker. But the decisions that we've taken up to this far have guaranteed us at least a situation of no spread. They may be painful decisions, and we have had to duck and change from time to time. The one big plan that I would love each one of us to believe in is this Leeds plan. Had we had Leeds before this outbreak, my belief is we wouldn't have been here. Leeds, in its full entirety, when fully properly implemented, would have been able to inform us. Now that also answers Victor's question of who takes the responsibility. Would have fully informed us that those animals that incited the disease in this free area would not even have landed up here. Now we started the process after the effect, post-facto. My proposal is that is to no effect now. We're in the middle of foot and mouth. And if we implement this program, it's going to put us in a better position to know the status on a bigger global plan and to monitor it much, much closer and prevent such incidences from happening in the future. That is part of the plan, the leads. Now, with regards to BLNS, BLNS is importing these animals from Botswana. By its very nature, that program is not intended for farming purposes. Those animals are brought in here for direct slaughter, or if they are not in a status that they can be slaughtered, they go into a feedlot for a while, but that process is also monitored. Dr. Morris is actively involved in that process as well. But as soon as they arrive and they're confined to a feedlot, the monitoring ensures that they go directly from the feedlot to a slaughter. So that's part of the process of trying to free space to be able to do trade within the situation. So every single action, decision, a step that we take is having in mind that there is an economy that is at stake here, and is in having in mind to free space to be able to do trade. The bigger plan, as it would be expected, is not going to come immediately, and to answer whether we are going to be free without vaccination or we're going to get our freedom with vaccination is still going to go through processes. But I would strongly suggest that the small little steps that we take are all intended to help the situation. At the end of it all, on the overall, when you bring all those small strategies together, you'll find that there is in fact a plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Doc. There was another guy wat wil praat, ja.
En dan die vraag wat ek wil hê is dalk net buite die raamwerk van Bek-en-Klou seer. Ons almal ken die ou vuilbek wat jy by bokke en skape gekry het. Is daar enige ooreenkoms tussen dit en Bek-en-Klou seer? Ek het 'n geslote klein beeskudde, maar ek koop nou byvoorbeeld 'n bokraam wat vuilbek het. Is daar enige ooreenkomste tussen die twee virusse en hoe onderskei jy as boer dit net eenvoudig van mekaar?
Daar's absoluut geen korrelasie nie. Die Bek-en-Klou virus, ek gaan julle nou vloek, dis 'n F-virus, is deel van die Picornaviridae familie, en die Orf-virus is 'n Orf-virus. Dis eintlik, die virus se naam is Paravaccinia. So daar is geen assosiasie tussen die twee siektes nie. As jy moeilikheid het, dis baie eenvoudig om dit uit te sorteer, veral by die bokke en die lammers. Jy kan jou eie enstof maak, gee my 'n lykie, sal ek jou net 'n bietjie raad gee en jy kan dit baie vinnig op jou plaas oplos.
Is dit familie van Bloutom?
Van Bloutom?
Ja, Bek-en-Klou en Bloutom.
Nee. Bek-en-Klou, soos ek gesê het, behoort aan daai familie van die virusse, en Bloutom en perdesiekte is verwant. Daai twee virusse is in dieselfde familieklas.
Ja, ek wil net 'n praktiese vraag vra. Ons het nou, soos Victor gesê, ons is nou in die Vrystaat getrap in beeste, so ons het deur al daai storm. 2 keer gevaccineer, dis 'n teelkudde en geëfbrand. Na die tweede vaccination het daar nog steeds kalvertjies aankom, ek minstens dis 'n teelkudde. Wat word van daai kalvertjies? Ek glo ons sal eventueel al hier effe moet van kant maak, maar byvoorbeeld wat van die kalvertjies na die tweede vaccination moet gebore word?
Ek dink ek het laas keer genoem, die kalletjies gaan met teenliggame gebore word. Dit gaan maar deur die biesmelk uitgeskei word en die kalf sodra sy eerste bekvol biesmelk inkry, gaan daar teenliggame wees. Maar die laboratoriumtoetse staan vas op 50 en hulle noem dit 'n percentile index. As jy 50 of kom ons sê 49.9 is jy negatief. 50.0001 is inconclusive, which means you're positive, and anything above 60 means you are full on positive. Maar daai kal is met die tyd, as daar geen uitdaging is nie, gaan die teenliggaam val vlak, daal, tot onder die 50. Daai kal word dan beskou as skoon. Dr. Lange can maybe just add to it. What I said was, if your calves test below 50 prior to sale, you're considered negative.
So daai kalvers moet dan weer eventueel getoets word om skoon verklaar te word.
Ja, ongelukkig is dit nou wat moet gebeur, maar ek dink dit dan kry jy die volle waarde vir jou kalf. But I think unfortunately I don't have another answer for you. At this point in time I don't have another answer for you. Miskien kom maar iets vorendag. Maar wat hulle wel kan doen is, hulle kan 'n monster pool. So jy vat 10 colours and you pool the sample. If it comes back positive, they have to check everyone. And that we've done with our research trials, which we didn't even discuss today. We pooled our samples. At one point in time, just the initial testing of the samples was $400,000. Okay, we didn't get any money from the RMRF or whatever Gerrit calls that place. Ons sal nog aan hy deurklop. But you can pool samples. Julle toets mos vir terug. Om 'n koste te bespaar, jy kan die samples pool. If something comes back positive in that pool, you need to go and check each individual sample that was submitted to find which pool is actually the problem.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Dr. Morris, with regards to the tests, it's true what he said with regards to the titers of 49, 50, and between 50 and 60 and above 60. And we do get those a lot, but that's not, and the lab do report that on us, but it's not the final decision. It's not based on those. Further on, there are other tests that are conducted, non-structural proteins, which is used to determine the final status on the farm as well. Thank you.
Guys, if they test for the and the ladies, if they test for the non-structural proteins, that indicates lack of or presence of viral circulation on your farm. If that test is negative, that means there is no viral circulation in those cattle on your farm.
Enige vraag nog?
Iets nou net met die veilige vraag in die staat. Meestal met moordende risiko van en besmetting of nie sagbare besmetting. Daarom ontvang van 'n vraag dat bijvoorbeeld met je slag. Nie 'n spesifieke slag. Maar jy by ons kan 'n Bek-en-Klou
Ek wil daaraan dink is 'n BN wat 'n zoonose is, kan by 'n gewone slagpaal geslag word. Bek-en-Klou wat geen risiko vir 'n mens het nie, kan nie by 'n gewone slagpaal geslag word nie. By 'n gewone slagpaal kan die feite kwaadrond ons nog steeds vernietig word.
Jy is heeltemal reg in terme van die zoonose wat besmetlike, let's talk English for Dr. Langa. You're 100% correct when you say that brucellosis poses an unbelievably high health risk to people. I think the one thing we've got to be careful of is the connotation that Botswana is sitting with an active foot and mouth infection. When you start engaging the European Union, and I did this not because I wanted to, but through a court case, they've got more hurdles than the 100-meter hurdles. Okay, you don't simply say, I sorted it out, we're back to normal. It's like you've had a hell of a fight with your wife. Okay, now you're not sure how to fix it, but the next day she's still not talking to you, and the next day she's still not talking to you. You can't believe the silence. You're so grateful for it. But the European Union are not an organization that are user-friendly. Let's take the cattle off the market. Look what they do to us with, what do you call this tea? Rooibos. Okay, they make your life impossible to protect their own farmers, industries, etc. And when Botswana says, you know, they're going to send live cattle, don't for 1 second think that those cattle are not checked. Every animal that comes into this country is done with a TB test. I'm not saying that to open every animal's mouth, but their veterinary services is not to be, you know, frowned upon. And in all the cattle that we've examined, and all the cattle that we've seen with foot and mouth, they haven't come from Botswana. And trust me, at the abattoirs, it's the big abattoirs that are bringing in a lot of those cattle for slaughter. Okay, they have independent meat inspection. Okay, and believe me, I'll be the first one to know, on said cock. Okay, they found one lesion on one tongue or on the hard palate. Okay, that abattoir shut, done, finished. And they'll trace it back. And I believe if our government believes that the risk emanates from Botswana, they issue you permits to bring those cattle. Every one of those permits will be revoked overnight. So I think we've got to be careful of that, you'd be throwing the baby and the bathwater and the soap out at the same time.
Maar Sean, excuse, kan julle my hoor? Ek wil net weet, daai dinge dan uit inkubasietydperk. So nou raai beeste van Botswana toe. Maar uit inkubasietydperk, so dan wys hy nog geen simptome nie. Maar oor 14 dae begin hy met sy simptome. Hoekom in die groot voedkraal is almal wat Botswana aangebring het? Hoekom is hulle nou almal van Morgan beef corn, Sparta, beef master nou almal daai en hulle kalf van Botswana aangebring? Is dit nie dat daai getoets is voor toe kom hulle na die inkubasietydperk hierso of het hulle gekwarantyne in Botswana voordat hulle deurgekom is?
Sonder om vir jou te sê hoe werk elke voedkraal se aankoopbeleid in Botswana, kan ek vir jou sê dat die meerderheid van die beeste staan daar ten minste 30 dae. Jy weet, deur die TB-toetsing proses, bietjie kos gewoond raak, want soos wat ek verstaan, dis kommunale beeste wat jy koop. In verskillende plekke, hulle moet by mekaar gemaak word, hulle moet dan vervoer word na die houstasie toe, waar hulle opgehoop word, dat daar genoeg beeste is vir 'n lorry. So die tyd wat deurgaan, jy weet, is meer as genoeg om enige simptome op te tel. En hulle animal health technicians, jy moet ook nie afskryf nie, hoor. Jy weet, Botswana wil hulle Europese status behou. As jy R450 per kilogram kry vir vulling, sê jy alles doen om siektebeheer toe te pas. En met hulle uitbraak nou, hulle het Bek-en-Klou gehad, hulle het die beeste vernietig. Finish. Daar was nie gepraat nie. Hulle is geskiet. En jare terug, en ek praat nou van jare terug, daar was 'n toestand in die noorde van Botswana en die noorde van Namibië met die naam van longsiekte. Ek weet nie of iemand al gehoor het van longsiekte. Hulle 100,000 beeste vernietig. Dis om jou status te behou. En die boere word vergoed daarvoor. We don't have that money. We've got to come up with alternatives. Maar ek kan nou vir jou sê, jy praat van Sparta, jy praat van Morgan, jy praat van Beefcore, jy praat van Kern. Ek is betrokke, nou nie by almal nie, en ek sien die beeste. En glo my, daai groot mense is te bang vir hierdie siekte. Jy weet, as er 'n bees nies, dok jou kop. Okay, ek kan nie nou kom, ek is oor 'n uur. Hoekom waar's dok? Okay. En glo my, hoekom ek praat van knopvel siekte? Dis die grootste verwarrende siekte wat jy wel kan kry, wat amper lyk soos Bek-en-Klou. Jy kry sulke letseltjies op die snoet, jy kry letsels in die trachea. So, dis hoekom ek sê, skakel daai risiko uit. Ons het al gehardloop, jy weet die ouens sê my, heer dok, ons het Bek-en-Klou, okay, ons is op pad. Toe ons net na die beeste gaan kyk het, jy gooi net 'n bietjie water op, jy kan die knoppe voel. Dis nie Bek-en-Klou nie. So ons is daarmee die staat se hand vashou. Maar glo my, as ek vir jou sê, die regering, toe die verbod op die beeste plaaslik was, daar was nie beeste van Namibië af toegelaat nie, daar was nie beeste van Botswana af toegelaat nie. Die verbod was op alle beestbewegings. En ek ken daai Dr. Maja, ek van klas gegee. Glo my, voordat jy oopmaak môreoggend as daar moeilikheid is al die invoerpermitte en die trokke gaan by die grens omgedraai word en die gaan maar terug.
Dank, is daar nog 'n vraag?
Môre, my vraag is vir Gerard Steppe met sy openings toespraak het hy gepraat oor hoë pryse by beeste en skape. Maar ons wat nou die slagbedryf is, het voordat hierdie groot voerkraal is nou so uitgeslag het en die mark oorstok het, weet ek van ten minste R5 prysdaling. So ek kom agter daar's 'n verwarring van nuus wat uitgaan. En ons het ook laas gepraat oor om nie beeste te beweeg nie. En een van ons boere in die Swaziland gebied het gesê, dit was seker so laas week, dat daar is nou 'n moontlike positiewe geval in hulle omgewing en dit maak hulle bewiesend hierdie hele geval van om dit geheim te hou, om nie te weet waar die uitbraak is nie, want jy weet nie of dit jou buurman is of nie, moet daar 'n lyn opgerig word of nie. So daar's baie sulke goeders wat Die mense hier op, ek wil amper sê op voetseelvlak, wetgewing wat daar is, wat nie sin maak nie, want as daar 'n uitbraak is, wil die mense daarvan weet, en as daar kommunikasie is oor verhoogde pryse, weet die boere nie hoekom hulle nie die verhoogde pryse kry nie, want dit is eintlik laag. Baie dankie.
Baie dankie. Eerstens wil ek sê, as gevolg van die mededingingskommissie het die RPO geen pryse wat hy self byhou nie. So ons maak gebruik van ander instansies wanneer ons oor pryse praat. En ek wil hier uitnooi, as ek mag, ons het 'n WhatsApp bulletin. Op daai WhatsApp bulletin sal jy ANT-pryse, dit is die Universiteit van Potchefstroom, jy sal die APSA-pryse kry, en jy sal verskeie ander kry, onder andere van die rooivleis abattoir vereniging. Die syfers wat ek net nou vir u deurgegee het, was 'n jaar op jaar syfer van APSA. En APSA doen 'n steekproef reg deur die land. Hulle het 'n baie spesifieke formule waarvolgens hulle die pryse weergee, en dis 'n nasionale prys. Ek is die eerste om te erken dat aan die provinsie mag dit verskil, maar as jy al die databasisse vat wat ek nou na verwys het, is dit min of meer die afleiding van die nasionale prys op hierdie stadium. Ek deel u frustrasie dat ons baie keer by die nasionale dieregesondheid forum hoor van 'n potensiële uitbreking. Eerstens, volgens wet mag jy dit eintlik nie bekend maak as dit nie amptelik is nie. En ek wil u ook vra, ons het dit in die sosiale media sien ons dit elke dag. Ons is partykeer ons eie grootste vyand om wolf te skree en daar is daar niks. Daar's 'n baie bepaalde manier wat Dr. Maja dit aan die OIE moet verklaar. En dit gaan gepaard met laboratoriumtoetse ensovoorts. So dit vat altyd baie langer as wat ons wil graag hê dit moet vat. Maar dan is dit amptelik. En is eintlik maar altyd beter om die amptelike kan ek maar sê syfers te gebruik in terme van uitbrekings. Ons lyk altyd beter as ons wag vir die amptelike een, maar ons het al by die nasionale dieregesondheidsforums onlangs begin sê, alle gerugte dui daarop dat. So ons begin dit sê, en dit is as gevolg van versoeke soos u se versoek, maar ons sal dit nie as 'n reël doen nie, so ek verstaan jou frustrasie. Maar ek wil asseblief julle uitnooi, gaan op die webbladsy en stuur julle selfoonnommers vir ons. Dan kan u ook 'n ingeligte besluit neem in terme van die eie bemarking om te sien wat sê die verskillende instansies wat gebeur met pryse. Dankie.
Baie dankie.
Yeah, thank you very much. I nearly missed that, but I need to understand there was also an inquiry about the investigation of a case in Swaziland. Yeah, that case may have taken a bit longer for it to come off ground to be investigated, but finally, ultimately, samples were sent to the laboratory, and we received by last week Friday already that the suspect was not foot and mouth disease. So the farmer was already told by Friday that they can resume activities. Thank you.
Doc, thank you.
Ek het 'n vraag vir julle. Julle sê nou dat hulle is nie wettiglik verplig om te sê daar's Bek-en-Klou of sweets nie. Is daar nie 'n manier om die wet te verwysig om te sê hulle is verpligtend om in 'n 10 tot 15 km radius om hulle te sê dat daar's 'n moontlikheid van Bek-en-Klou wees gewaarsku, dat die bure om hulle kan sê, okay, daar's miskien 'n moontlikheid, ons skuif ons kudde weg van daai spesifieke grensstrale af, toets ons kudde, as ons kudde negatief is, dat hulle uit die gebied uit kan kom. Is dan nie, kan ons nie na sweets kyk nie.
maybe I can just comment on that. But what we've seen is that the farmers, die boeregroepe, the minute that there's a farm being tested, it gets out on a WhatsApp group that you guys need to be cautious because our farm is under what they call precautionary quarantine until such time that the lab results come back. So that's the quickest way of getting the information out to anybody within a 10 or 15 kilometer radius of the farm that's under precautionary quarantine, not under a full quarantine. There's a big difference. You're just being put on hold until the results come out of the lab.
Thank you, Dr. Seniere. I also just want to support what Dr. Morris is saying. But by and large, that's how we have survived in the Northwest. The cooperation is somewhere amongst the farmers themselves. Had it not been for that, we wouldn't be where we are. And we are in this unique situation, as I said, in that we are fortunate in that this disease has not spilled into the communal areas. Were it to be like that, as they say, hell would have broken loose a long time ago. And it's an unfortunate situation and a good situation that it's in the commercial sector where movement control can be monitored. And the reason why we cannot take action from the government immediately when we know there's a suspect is exactly because of that. We cannot declare a disaster management area wherein laws that are in place of the land can be invoked immediately. In a disaster management area, it's very easy. You apply one law and it helps a bigger coverage of the area. In this situation, we have to rely very largely on the cooperation, the understanding of the individual farmers, which in the Northwest, we have used a lot of its advantage to our benefit. And yes, that puts us in a little bit of a unique situation, but with understanding we're able to move forward much better. Thank you.
Ekskuus tog meneer voorsitter. Ek wil net vir Gerard vra, ek dink ek het reg geluister as hy gesê dat die rooi vleisprodusente organisasie se befondsing kom nou nie weer van die veilingstrale af waar die tarief afgetrek word van die boer af nie. Gaan hulle nie nou 'n bietjie 'n verlies ly deur die geld wat hulle daar gaan inkry nie?
Ekskuus voorsitter, as dit so oorgekom het, het ek 'n groot fout gemaak. As u kyk na die afrekeningsstaat, wanneer dit by die veiling was, dan was daar voorheen 'n RMLA aftrekking. Die RMLA aftrekking is die statutêre heffing. Daai een het tot 'n einde gekom en binne die kluster het ons ooreengekom en ek dink dis 'n groot voordeel vir u as boere en ons as boere dat die aftrekking word nou net by die abattoir gemaak eenmalig en dis min of meer dieselfde bedrag per kop as voorheen. So u sien nie meer daai aftrekking nie, maar daar sal wel hopelik 'n aftrekking wees vir die RPO. Dis 'n vrywillige aftrekking wat u moet opteken al dan nie. En al wat ek daarvan kan sê is, sonder daai aftrekking het u nie 'n kantoor nie, u het nie 'n provinsiale animal health forum nie. Dis 'n vrywillige aftrekking. En ek het vir u probeer verduidelik dat die kluster bestaan uit die 4 organisasies. Hoe sterker jy op 'n vrywillige basis as 'n organisasie is, hoe sterker gaan jy deurkom binne die kluster en binne die nuwe statutêre omgewing. Dankie.
Gerard, nou, ek dink nie al die vee wat van 'n veilingslokaal afkom, gaan na 'n abattoir toe.
Net so die bottom line is, die eienaar van die vee, wanneer hy geslag word by die abattoir, betaal die heffing. So So dit kan 'n boer wees, maar kyk ons na
Ja,
die
ek dink nie verstaan nou wat ek sê nie. Ek sê al die diere wat op 'n veilingslokaal verkoop word, gaan nie noodwendig na 'n abattoir wat julle fooi kry nie. So daar gaan 'n gemis wees van fondse wat altyd aftrekbaar was.
Ja, ek hoor wat jy sê, daar kan verskeie transaksies wees, maar aan die einde van die dag word elke bees tog maar eendag geslaan. En dit is waar die statutêre heffing ter sprake is.
Okay, dames en here, ek gaan nou nie meer vrae toelaat nie. Ek het mooi geluister vandag na ons geleerde vriende hier. Ons moes hierdie vergadering gehad het in Maart maand. Ek dink dan sal ons beter verstaan het en julle sou geluister het wat ons wil gehad het. Maar ek dink ons kan dit nie daar laat om te sê, ja, dit is nou maar so. Ek voel, maar dan, jy op daai komitee van jou, soos daai oukie Victor gesê het, daar moet 'n plan wees. Ons kan nie almal tevrede stel nie. Né? So, ons maak die plan, maar dan moet hy in werking gestel word. Dit help nie om 'n jaar alweer, dit is amper Maart maand. En Doc, you have the powers to talk to Dr. Meyer and the minister, and let's see that we get all the provinces to have the same rules. Then we won't have this thing that KwaZulu-Natal say, yeah, but in the and not North West they do this and we don't do it there. There's have an act that goes for all the provinces. And then we will not satisfy all the farmers. I'm sorry. So somewhere we must take a decision, and luckily it's not me that's going to take the decision. If I was in a position, I would take this decision. I'm not afraid to take sides, but we will have to have scientific evidence that that is the right decision. If you people agree, can I ask them to come back sometime? I don't know, it's over Christmas now, but usually farmers work 24 hours, Saturdays and Sundays. But you guys are excused, like Doc, you're a government employee, you must rest because you work very hard this year. You work very hard, but you understand why we're having this meeting. And if we had it in March, I think we would have made another decision for this area. So I think in the future, let government know there's farmers who's willing to work with them, and we can listen to these farmers too, because they're on the ground every day. Like Doc Morris said, there's a new guy, expert. I wanted to ask him how many cattle do that guy have? He's an expert, but he doesn't have one animal. So that doesn't make him an expert, because a cattle farmer, moet jy weet om boorgate te trek, jy moet kan draad span, jy moet kan beeste spuit, jy moet kan skelms vang, jy moet kan 'n plan maak, as dit droog is en jy het nie gras nie, waar is 'n swak plek in jou buurman se draad, dan slaai hom met 'n ysterpaal en gaan die beeste 'n naweek bietjie dan weer eet daar en so. So, dis wat ek sê, dis hoe lyk 'n beesboer. En regtig, as jy gaan kyk wat die boere kry vir die vleis, ek dink dit is eintlik waar Gerrit hulle moet inkom. In die supermarkte, die vleise is regtig vir ons verbruiker heeltemal te duur. As jy kyk tussen wat die boer kry en wat hulle vra vir die vleise. Ek dink daar's 'n groot probleem op baie produkte wat van ons boere so verhandel word. Maar kan ek, Doc, can I ask you to really, when you have another meeting, think about what we've said here. We support you. I can even say we like you and we need you. En Marzan, ek het jou nou vandag leer ken, maar jy moet besop gaan op jou spoor wees. maar ons moet 'n oplossing kry. So can you two guarantee me that you will come back with a solution? You will work on something. But Doc, I've got your number now. I'll check you every day. As jy tevrede as ons vir die mense vra, Karel, jy tevrede? Ek weet Karel. Ek verstaan dit, maar ons, jy weet, as ons nou eintlik wil begin hare kloop, dan moet ek spat hier die wet en vir hulle sê, julle het nie die wet nagekom nie, maar hulle uit goeie trou gehoop dat dinge sou verbeter, en toe het dit nie. So nou moet ons gaan teruggaan en 'n besluit neem. Maar ek sê, ek kan my buurman soe, as hy vir my Bek-en-Klou kan ek hom soe. So julle moet asseblief vir al die staatsvelders sê, waar Bek-en-Klou is, moet hulle die beeste weghou van hulle bure af. En dan, niemand kan weier om sy beeste te ent. As hulle getoet is en hulle is positief, moet hulle geënt word. Is dit reg, Karel? Is dit reg? Maar, ook volgens die wet sê hulle moet gebrand word. And I think that's where the problem is in our area. We've got different situations. So Doc, we must look into that too. So, baie dankie vir julle wat gekom het, hier reën het lekker, en ek wil vir julle vier sê, baie dankie. Doc, it's a pleasure always to listen to you. I think you and me can work nicely in a committee. We'll get to the point very quickly. Marzan, baie bly jy het gekom. Doc, thanks for coming. I know you got a lot of work and a lot of trouble, but it's nice sometimes to meet the people that you work with. And that's one thing I think government must accept, is that the farming community is with the government to make this country better. All these guys want to see a better country, and they don't look at black and white. They just look at what is your capabilities. If you're a municipal councillor, you must keep your area clean, you must look after your voters. And they are supporting all that. That's why I can guarantee you, they will support you in what you're going to do. Gerrit, ek is baie bly, ek sien jou weer meer as 30 jaar terug, maar wat ek van jou wil verwag, is, jy moet nou vir my, ook vir hierdie mense, raad gee, want jy kom by baie sulke vergaderings, en dan moet jy opsomming maak en dit aan hulle stuur, dat hulle kan sien, wat soek die land. Ons kan nie net gaan op die vergadering, en een ou wat sê die land moet end of, nie end nie, ons moet luister na almal. Baie dankie. Ja, nee, dit is, ek wil nou gesê, wat gaan nou gebeur? Dames en heren, wat nou gaan gebeur, is, dat mevrou van der Leeuw vir julle gaan bedank en vir julle vertel wat hier aangaan, maar ek wil oor die waarheid sê, touwvoere en Karel het die kos geborg. Baie dankie daar aan daai twee ouens. As julle wil drink, daar is 'n plekkie waar jy kan iets koop, maar dan moet jy ook geld uithaal, hoor. Baie dankie.
Ek weet nie hoekom ek bedank as om Jan reeds het nie. Baie dankie om Jan. Ek wil net sê dankie vir almal wat julle hier is, vir almal wat hier is en ook die mense van die lewendige uitsending. En dan Meerkat online auctions. Dit is nou Ian Kolyn en sy span vir die lewendige uitsending. Alles aan die kantoor en in die besprekings en die bemarking. Ons waardeer dit vreeslik baie. En dan het oom Jan nou gesê van touwvoere en Karel. Ek sien Org is hier so, baie dankie. Ja, hulle het vandag sy ete moontlik gemaak. Van die leeuwvoerkrale is nou maar in Fula ingesluit, so baie dankie daarvoor. En dan dankie net vir oom Jan en vir Karel, vir al julle moeite en telefoonoproepe en reëlings om hierdie geleentheid moontlik te maak, wat regtig vir ons baie na in die hart is, en ons hoop regtig dat dinge van hier af, dat daar gaan vorm aanneem, en dat ons sal weet en mekaar sal ondersteun, en dan ook vir Boeta de Tooi vir die selfbeleid, ons waardeer dit vreeslik baie, en dan na die ete moet julle veilig ry. Kan ek sommer vir ons dankie sê vir die kos. Groot en almagtige Vader, dankie Here dat U ook hier is in die reën en dat U ook hier is en elkeen wat veilig hier is en die oggend saam kon geniet het. Dankie vir die voedsel. Seën dit soos U alleen kan en dat ons regtig die krag wat ons daaruit kry sal gebruik om U mee te loof. Dankie almagtige Vader. Amen.